Customer service rep Lori Lee is suing her niece, 20-year-old student Stormy Nation, for having her falsely arrested for assault. Stormy says Lori scratched her face.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 354 on the calendar in the matter of Lee versus Nation. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, folks.
Miss Lee, the defendant is your niece. According to the complaint that I read, it is your claim that she filed false charges against you, alleging that you had assaulted her. Assaulted her on a day that you were visiting your stepfather's ranch and she was there. Miss Nation says that you did in fact assault her and she legitimately contacted the police. That despite the fact that the charges, according to you, were ultimately dismissed.
Correct.
Okay. When was this incident involving your niece?
It actually took place on July 28th.
Where?
At my stepdad's ranch.
Is that where you live?
Yes.
And tell me what happened with your niece.
My kids and I had been invited to attend a rodeo with my stepdad's girlfriend, Deb. So on July 26th, which is a Friday, we were headed to the ranch. On our way there, we have to go through my hometown. When we got into the hometown, Stormy's dad, who is also my brother.
Is that you?
Yes. My brother-in-law's had a new semi, and he had it parked out in front of the car.
Let's finish that sentence.
Semi-truck.
Okay.
And my kids were all excited. They wanted to stop and see their Uncle Dwayne, so we stopped at the bar. I went inside the bar, and Stormy and Steve were seated at the end of the bar. I knew when I walked into the bar, I was visiting with other people. I could tell she had given me an evil eye, that she was upset about something at that time. So when I approached Stormy, I said, "Hi, Stormy." She said, "Hi." I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "I'm a little bit pissed at you." I said, "Stormy, I don't come up here. I don't call you guys. I don't want anything to do. I don't try to get involved in your little soap operas, but yet I still seem to get involved."
Did she tell you why she was annoyed with you?
For the simple fact that she did not think that I should be at the ranch. At that time, she was under the impression it was her ranch, her house, and that she had to say who could and could not be there.
Is that what you told her?
No. There was a time where I remember her coming in and talking to me, but I don't remember saying anything that I was ever upset with her.
Okay, fine.
We had the conversation, and I then stated I thought it would be a good idea if she was going to live at the ranch, that she purchase her own mobile home to live out there.
Just a second, why are you giving her advice? I'm just curious. If you know she's annoyed with you, why are you giving her advice?
Because we're having a civil conversation at that time.
So that's on the 26th of July. Can we move over to the 28th of July, please?
Yes. Which was a Sunday. We had been to the rodeo the day before. Stormy and Steve came home. The kids and my stepdad were out.
And you were staying at the ranch?
Yes, we were.
Okay, and they were living at the ranch?
We were living, yes.
Good.
Okay, so they arrived Sunday morning. I'm in the kitchen cleaning up from breakfast, doing the dishes, and I said hi when they walked in, and Stormy snottily to me said, under her breath, "Hi." So I then asked her why she
had an attitude.
Had an attitude with me. She then tried to leave and go to her bedroom. I followed her.
Why?
Because we're having a discussion.
She didn't want to have a discussion. Discussion takes two people. She didn't want to have anything to do with you. She was leaving. What happened when you followed her?
Then she tried to shut the door. I pushed the door open. I said, "No, we're going to talk. I want to talk to you now." She sat on the edge of the bed. We had a very short-lived conversation.
Well, what did you say to her and what did she say to you?
It was just...
She tried to go into her room. You pushed your way into her room. She sat at the edge of her bed. You had a short conversation. I want to know what the conversation was.
It was all based on this. She didn't think that I should be at the ranch.
When she had forced herself into my room, I said, "Lori, I don't want to talk to you." I said, "I don't have an attitude problem," and that was it. I said, "I don't want to talk about it." And she said, "Well, we're going to talk about it." And she had a hold of me, pushing me on the bed, holding me in my room.
Okay, go ahead.
She's like, "We're going to talk about this." I said, "No, we're not." And I got out of my room and went outside. That's when I had went outside. And a minute, two, behind me, here she came.
And what happened when she came up behind you?
We started talking. She's like, "You know, we just need to talk about this. We need to work out our problems." And I said, "What problems?" "I don't have an attitude problem." I said, "I've never done anything to you. I just don't want to talk to you right now." I said, "You're making me mad and it's making me upset." And so we decided that was enough. We hugged and thought it was all over. Then I went over to help my grandpa in the garden. And then that's when she followed me over there. She's constantly yelling at me, saying that I have a bad mouth, I'm spoiled, I need to have my attitude adjustment.
Now, what did she say when you were in the garden?
She was just constantly screaming at me.
You mean while you were helping your grandfather in the garden? She was screaming at you?
Yes.
What was she saying?
Cussing at me.
What did she say? I can take it.
That I was a spoiled, the B word. And I said, no, I'm not. I started getting upset, and I started cussing back at her. I said, why don't you just, and I said the F word, just drop it. Just leave me alone. I don't want to talk about it. And she said that my mouth was worse than my mother's mouth. And I constantly just kept saying, Lori, F, drop it. I said, I'm not going to talk to you about this. And she said, come over to my face and say it. And I was like, no. And I was talking to my grandpa, and we're working in there. She's like, well, come on, why don't you say it? Come over here and say it to my face. I'll slap you. And I was approximately this far away from the fence. And I just leaned over, and I said, F you to her face. And
put your hand down. I'm listening to her.
And that's when she reached over to try to slap me. I grabbed her arms right here. I may have dug my fingernails into her arms right here, but she was swinging at me, and I had fell over the fence. And I believe I might have caught her shirt. I think that's how her shirt ripped. And I had caught her shirt, but that was it. And then I walked into the house and was proceeding to go to the bathroom because I had blood on my face, which I have
blood
pictures.
From what?
Her scratches.
Oh, she scratched you in the face.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And so I was going to the bathroom to clean up my face. She had followed me in again and grabbed me right in front of the stereo when we walked in the house. And that's when my husband came in and stood in between us and said, that's enough. You guys need to knock it off. After I was done cleaning my face, I went back outside to finish helping my grandfather, and she proceeded to get her things and the kids and leave.
The assault that you're referring to are the scratches on your face. Is that right?
Yes.
That was the assault?
Yes.
When did you call the police?
I went to town right after that, right after she left, and went to the courthouse.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I raised my hand as if to slap her.
If to slap her, that's
Listen,
the key point.
she's
not slap
she
her.
is not a mind reader.
And later today,
I moved my daughter out here, and Debbie did not like that. She became very hateful, very belligerent. In fact, she put a restraining order against Julie, and she did nothing.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Customer service rep Lori Lee is suing her niece, 20-year-old student Stormy Nation, for having her falsely arrested for assault. Stormy says Lori scratched her face.
Can I see the copy of the complaint that you filed?
Would you like to see the pictures?
Mm-hmm. I would.
Those are the complaints, I believe.
Miss Lee, were you arrested on a charge of assault, or is the false arrest that you're talking about really Miss Nation's application for a protective order?
They had a warrant for my arrest.
Can I see the paperwork she has, please? All of
Thank you.
minutes. Thank you. Other than this hearing that you went to before a judge for the restraining order, did you go to court for anything else involving this incident?
No.
Okay. The only decision that I have to make today is whether Miss Nation, your niece, whether she was within her rights to go to court and say, I want a protective order against my aunt because this is what she did to me, and she was following me around, and I want her to leave me alone. And Miss Lee, based upon what I've heard from both of you, despite the fact that the court after the hearing dismissed the case because the judge said the evidence suggests that you raised your hand first against her, which you seem to say also in your complaint, that you went to slap her in the face and she caught your hand. That's what you said you did. You went to slap her and she got your hand. It's also clear to me that you probably say to yourself, listen, I'm the grown-up, I'm her aunt, I want to clear this up with my niece. She's not going to get away with, you know, disrespecting me, but she's a grown-up. She's not 10 or 11 years old. You can't put her in a timeout. You can't presume to retrain her if you think that she's not acting properly with you, which is really what you wanted to do. We wanted to clear the air. She didn't want to talk to you. She had an absolute right to file this case. Now, I'll hear you say one final thing, Miss Lee.
I did not slap her. She told me to F you. I had apologized to her. I went out to the yard and I said, Stormy, I am sorry. I do not want to fight with you. And
I told her to come and say that to my face, and she did. I raised my hand as if to slap her.
As if to slap her. That's
Listen,
the key point.
she's
I would not slap
she
her.
is not in a mind reader. You raise your hand in that kind of a heated moment, and she grabbed your hand because she thought you were going to slap her in the face. That's what you said. In any event, Miss Lee, she had every right, based upon what happened that day, to file an application for protective order against you. So your case for false arrest is denied. That's all. Step out.
Why is that excused? You may step out.
Jealousy.
Stating that I'm jealous.
The relationship between my grandfather and I.
Anybody's jealousy, it's my sister.
She's angry.
She has her hate
And she's upset
that her mother and I feel for each other.
that I was right and she was wrong.
And it's really sad.
Nothing really to do with her anymore.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lasso versus Kozlowski, step forward, please.
Lucille Lasso is suing her son-in-law, project manager Jeff Kozlowski, for an unpaid loan to build a fence. Jeff says the money was a gift to him and his wife.
Miss Lasso, the defendant is your son-in-law.
Right.
And I assume that this is your daughter. Is that right?
Correct.
Is this also a daughter?
Yes.
According to your complaint, you made a loan to your son-in-law and your daughter in the amount of $1,000. You made that loan about a year ago, and it was for them to be able to put a fence around their swimming pool. Mr. Kozlowski says that there was no loan, that this was a gift, that you made the gift not only to them, but to other of your children in the same amount of money, and that the only time that it became a loan was when the family had a falling out. Is that right, sir?
That's very accurate.
Okay. So when did you write a check or hand them the $1,000?
On 7th month, on the 13th, 02.
And tell me how that came about, Mrs. Lasso.
Debbie,
Your daughter.
my daughter, she asked me, they had put up a pool, and she wanted to put a fence up. But I told her, because I had been giving money to my son, I bought him a car. I moved my daughter out here from Chicago, and I told her I was using too much money, and that I would loan her the $1,000, but I wanted it back within a year. And the three of us were in his kitchen, and it was quite clear. I said in front of them, this money I want back, because I have been spending too much.
You said you gave your son money to buy a car.
Right.
How much did you give your son to buy the car?
$3,500.
And how much of the $3,500 has he paid you back?
$1,000.
When was the last time you received a payment from your son?
Oh, I'd say 5-6 months ago.
Prior to July 13th, how much money had you given your daughter and son-in-law?
Didn't I keep it? I gave them a lot of money. Well, they did a lot for me. I loved them to death. And when they needed something, if I needed something, it was mutual. One hand washed the other.
What kind of work did they do for you?
He put a patio in for me. She did all my gardening.
And how much did you pay them for that?
I paid them in buying things.
Like what?
He put my patio...
Like what?
I'm telling you.
He put your patio in, and what did you...
Put my patio. I bought him a guitar for $400.
Guitar for $400.
And we would go shopping.
Patio. Okay, go ahead.
To put it in.
All right. I'm getting the picture. Now, what happened between your daughter and you after July?
I moved my daughter out here, and she did not like that.
Who did not like that?
Debbie did not like that. She became very hateful, very belligerent, and we had a big fight. In fact, she put a restraining order against Julie, and she did nothing. And she lied. And she filed in behalf of me, which I had nothing to do with. So when I went
She filed it on behalf of you?
Yes. She came to my house, and I said, "You did what?" I said, "Get out of my house. That's it. I will never give you another penny." So we went to court, and she has the paper that she filed, and none of it is true. None of it.
Okay, so you had a big fight with your daughter. And what month was that, would you say?
August she filed it.
Well, we're talking about now over a year ago. When did you decide to get this money from her?
they stashed a pool, an old rusty pool, under my deck. So my son offered to come over and help Mr. Kozlowski take the pool out from under my deck because it was no good, it was garbage.
Yes.
So my daughter-in-law walked across the street and asked Jeff if he would help my son move the pool out from under my deck. And he said, no, I'll never do anything over there.
This was after you told your daughter that you were angry and that she was never going to get another penny from you.
Oh, that was before that. This was later.
This was before.
This was almost a year later. We haven't talked for 14 months.
I got it.
And when we do, it's something sarcastic or something.
I'm asking you when this business about the rusty old pool took place.
That was right before I filed the paper.
Recently?
August.
Recently?
Recently.
And after he said he's not moving the pool, then you filed this
All right,
paper.
correct. And then I asked her, are you ever going to start paying me for that fence? Because it had already been a year. And she says, no, prove it.
Okay. Now I'll hear you. Go ahead.
My mother-in-law came over to our house and sat in our kitchen, gave us $1,000. They actually gave my wife $1,000. And the check was made out to me, and because I was going to the bank that day. That's why I'm here. This is pretty much between the words loan, borrow, pay me back were never uttered at that time.
Well, tell me about it, Ms. Kozlowski. Tell me about this $1,000.
Well, she gave me $1,000. She also gave, and the $3,500 for the car has nothing to do with this. She also gave my brother another $1,000, and she gave my niece, her granddaughter, $1,000, all within the same 2 months, as gifts. There was no loan or anything ever mentioned.
Shh. That's a conclusion. That's for me to decide. Tell me about the day when she gave your brother the check.
I asked her, or I don't recall exactly why, but she said she was giving it to him because of all the work that he'd done around her house, and it was just because he was low on money, and he opted to use that as a mortgage payment, and I opted to use it for a fence.
Ms. Lasso, I have to make a judgment as to whether or not I believe that when you gave your daughter this, listen to me carefully, that when you gave your daughter this money, this $1,000 check, you anticipated its return and that there was a clear understanding between you and your daughter and son-in-law that this was a loan.
Yes, ma'am.
And I find that it was not a loan. I find that it was a gift that you made, and that your argument with your daughter and son-in-law, which escalated into a Cold War, unfortunately, between the three of you, ultimately reached its crescendo when your son-in-law was asked to get rid of this pool that was stored, and he said he's not helping. And it was shortly thereafter that you decided you were going to file a lawsuit against them for $1,000. All I want to know is, do you have a check there?
Yes,
Is your
ma'am.
canceled check
I didn't
on it?
write.
Shh.
Okay.
Does your canceled check say loan or
No.
anything that would suggest a memorandum that the money was going to be returned?
No.
When you gave your son $1,000, was there anything on his check that indicated gift or loan?
No. This was strictly
So
verbal.
you may be angry with your daughter. That doesn't mean lawsuit. That doesn't mean case. Your case is dismissed.
Ma'am,
It was a gift.
can
That's
I
all.
say something?
Thank
No.
you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, we know who's lying here, don't we? Go ahead
always
and
you.
smile. Go smile.
Database engineer Janet Quarterbitty is suing her neighbor, tax administrator Mark Swan, for damages to her home and for making false complaints to the police. Mark is countersuing for damages to his house and for an assault.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 274 on the calendar in the matter of Quarterbitty versus Swan. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
How long have you been neighbors?
9.5 years, Your Honor.
And how long have you lived in your house?
I've lived in my house for 10 years.
So you moved in 6 months after she did, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm getting to the lawsuit, but I want to find out what the genesis of the problem is between you two seemingly normal-looking people. When did the trouble start between the two of you?
About a month after he moved in.
Why?
I found out afterwards that he believed that the property line was about 2 or 3 feet closer to my side than it actually was. That
Yes.
He was trying to sort of push things over to move the property line where he thought it should be.
Did you have your property surveyed?
I didn't. I didn't realize this was an issue. I did in April 2001.
Well, that took a long time. When you bought your property, you had a survey?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the survey indicated, at least as far as you were concerned, that your property line was 2 or 3 feet into property that Miss Quarterbitty had previously thought was hers.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you have a discussion with her about it?
No, Your Honor.
Why not?
Well, because I had a survey that was on my property, and I knew that she had a survey of the same fence line, so I knew that she knew that the fence was on my property.
Just a second. You knew that there was a fence that she had erected that was on your property?
No, Your Honor, this is a fence that was existing before both of us, both parties bought the property.
Okay. And that fence was on your property?
Yes, Your Honor.
As far as your survey was concerned?
2 surveys, yes, Your Honor.
So you wanted to move the fence?
No.
Well, what was the problem? I don't understand what the problem was.
I didn't have a problem with it, Your Honor.
May I speak?
Yeah.
Shortly after he moved in, he started mowing down my plants. He started cutting other plants. He started moving my woodpile over. I didn't know what was going on. He didn't come and say to me, hey, you know, there's an error here. Keep your stuff on your side. No, he just moves it over. So I moved it back. He had backfilled it with dirt, and I was digging out the dirt and moving it back when he came out and he attacked me with a rake in 1997.
Okay. I don't have to get back as far as your incidents with each other in 1997. Suffice it to say that this whole problem started because the two of you did not act like adults. You have a lawyer?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a lawyer?
Yes.
Well, if you don't wish to speak to her, even though she's your neighbor, you have your lawyer write a letter and say, Dear Miss Quarterbitty, we believe that this is Mr. Swan's property. Please check your survey. If there is any difficulty, have your lawyer get in touch with us. Yes?
May I interject something? We did go to arbitration, and I offered to be friends, and she refused that in arbitration.
When?
Back in 1995, Your Honor.
Okay. When you went to arbitration, what was the result of the arbitration with regard to the property?
No result was issued on that.
Your Honor, if I may, the arbitration at the time was for something entirely different.
I want to know, was there ever a resolution with regard to this property?
No, it has not gone through civil court yet.
So, as far as each of you is concerned, there's a 2 to 3 foot strip of property that is in dispute. Is that right?
No, it is not right, Your Honor. He thought it was 2 or 3 feet. In fact, the fence is on his property by 6 inches.
For some people, 6 inches is very important.
Absolutely. I understand that now. However, I had a survey, and I didn't study it. I didn't realize that, yes, the fence appeared to be on his property by a small amount. I didn't look at it until he started mowing things down and beating on my fence, trying to push it over and undermine it and tear it down, basically.
How large a piece of property do you have, Mr. Swan?
It's a little over half an acre.
Well, that's a pretty decent-sized piece of property. Is there anything that is particularly attractive about this strip of property?
Your Honor, I think with the
Is there something particularly attractive about this piece of property?
No, Your Honor.
Then what's the big deal? There are more important things to deal with in life. Why would you move her woodpile over a foot? Why?
I deny that allegation.
Mr. Swan, that's not true. You moved it because it was irritating to you that she was on your property.
If it was on my property and I had right of claim, then I would have moved it.
Did you move it?
If it was on my property.
Did you move it?
Yes.
Then I'm saying to you, you're a fool, because that's not the way civilized people behave. It's just not, especially when you're new in the neighborhood. It's ridiculous. However, I have a feeling that you acted badly as well.
I don't know why you would have that feeling, Your Honor.
Really? Because you were convicted of assault, madam, that's why. Your case here says that he falsely accused you of assaulting him, and you want to be compensated, and that he has damaged your house, and you want to be compensated. But when I read further in his answer, you were convicted of assault.
Can I explain to you why?
No.
Okay.
Once you're convicted, you cannot charge him with having falsely accused you of assaulting him. Do you understand?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Well,
if he brings fraudulent evidence into the courtroom and the Commonwealth attorney believed him, and the judge found him guilty based upon this fraudulent evidence.
Found you guilty. Found you guilty.
Found me guilty based upon his fraudulent evidence.
We don't revisit that, madam. You don't get to try the same case twice. So you have no claim against him for the false arrest. Now, you have a charge against him. You say that he's damaged your home.
Can I show you a videotape of this happening?
Yes. Damage to your home has not been litigated yet, as far as I know. Is that right? Is that right? Has the damage to your home been litigated?
I pressed a charge, but I withdrew it. We traded charges, basically. Which has been going on all the time.
Hold on a second. You filed charges with regard to the damage on your home that's in that video?
I did.
Did you subsequently drop those charges?
I did. I traded them for the appeal. I had a charge against him, he had a charge against me,
and you both agreed to withdraw those charges. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Then that's finished.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He has almost totally destroyed the existing fence.
He can destroy whatever he wants to on his property.
No, he can't.
Oh, yes, he can.
No, he can't.
You say potato and I say potato, madam. He can, in fact, take down a fence if it's on his property.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janet Quarterbitty says she's at war with neighbor Mark Swan over a property line. She is suing him for damages to her home and for filing false charges with the police.
Do either of you two people have any fresh complaints about the other that have not been the subject of either a settlement or a lawsuit?
I do.
When?
Over the last year, he has almost totally destroyed the existing fence.
Is this the fence that's on his property?
Yes, it is.
The fence is on his property?
It's his, but it's my fence.
He can destroy whatever he wants to on his property.
No, he can't.
Oh, yes, he can.
No, he can't.
You say potato and I say potato, madam. He can, in fact, take down a fence that you erected if it's on his property.
But I didn't erect it. It was there. It was pre-existing.
Then you certainly have no complaint. If he took down a fence that you acknowledge is on his property, that you, in fact, did not put up, he has the right to take it down. He has the right to take it down even if you did put it up, if it's on his property. You can't erect a structure on somebody else's property.
I didn't.
Oh.
It was there before.
Okay. I've taken care of your claim. You have no claim. I'm coming back to you. You have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim is for medical bills and damages due to the assault. Has this been the subject of any other proceeding?
No.
You have never sued her for the medical bills as a result of the assault. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Let me see. The assault was in 2002, is that right?
June of 2002, right.
You have photographs of the assault? What is this that you're showing me? What is this that you're showing me?
These are attorney's fees, Your Honor. Those are prior proceedings, too.
I think that both of them need another kind of professional. Right?
Could be.
Your Honor, may I speak?
I see a mark on your arm, sir, a large bruise on your arm.
Right.
I want you to tell me when this happened and under what circumstances it happened, and then you will show me what I asked you for, which were the medical bills as a result of this assault.
Okay. I have an HMO that pays for the medical bill.
So you had no medical bills?
I have the receipts.
So you had no medical bills, the HMO covered it, so you want damages for your pain and suffering?
That's correct.
Okay. Tell me how this happened.
Okay, this is ongoing things she's throwing. Every time...
Just listen to me. Do you see this? I want you to tell me how this happened.
I had a boulder thrown at me. It went past my head. I put my arm up. It hit me right in the arm.
What kind of boulder?
It's a boulder the size of 2 fists, a rock.
A rock.
Right.
Where were you when this rock was thrown at you?
I was standing between the 2 houses on my side of the fence.
And what were you doing?
I was cutting my grass, working in the yard.
And what was Miss Quarterbitty doing?
Miss Quarterbitty was watching me, which is her favorite pastime. Every time I get near the fence, or if I'm cutting the grass near the fence, this upsets her, this agitates her.
Okay. So she picked up a rock and threw it at you?
Unprovoked a lot of times.
I'm not interested in a lot of times, sir. I'm interested in this time. This is the time when she was convicted of assault. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You saw a doctor how many times, sir?
I went twice.
What kind of treatment did you receive?
He gave me coated Tylenol, which is for the pain. It was a deep muscle bruise.
Were the police called after this?
Yes, they were.
Do you have a police report?
The police were not called on that day.
Not with me, Your Honor.
Police were not called on that day.
When were you contacted by the police, Miss Quarterbitty? Was it the day after?
No.
When was it?
It was, I guess, a couple of weeks later that some officer came into my yard and said I was under arrest. And I said, for what?
When did you call the police, sir?
June 30th, 2002.
And when did this incident occur?
June 30th, 2002.
Did you file a complaint?
Yes, I did. I went down to the magistrate's office immediately. I filed a complaint, and I went to Kaiser Permanente immediately.
Did you miss any work?
No, Your Honor.
Was there a hearing before a bench or before a jury?
Bench.
You waived a jury trial?
There was no question of jury trial at that point.
You had an attorney?
I didn't have an attorney. I didn't do anything. I didn't get an attorney because I had nothing to defend myself against. Your Honor, I have his complaint right here, a copy of his complaint.
I'd like to see it.
That he took down to the magistrate that morning. And the magistrate annotated on it. The magistrate annotated on it, red mark on right arm.
Right.
The picture you see is of an arm with quite an extensive injury, and it's not even him, frankly. If you look at the picture, there's no way to identify.
I want to tell you something, madam. If you threw a rock at him and he had a little mark on his right arm, you're way out of line.
I didn't throw a rock
I don't believe
at him.
you. I don't. If you threw a rock and it hit him, you're way out of line. I believe that you did. You have to stop fighting with each other because life is short. Do you understand? He is absolutely entitled to recover, Miss Quarterbitty, because you were convicted of assault. A judge hearing this case beyond a reasonable doubt found that you were, in fact, guilty of throwing a rock at him and causing him injury. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim in the amount of $2,500. You better stop it.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think Judge Judy did a very good job.
Huh. On the basis of his false evidence, they found me guilty.
She's provoking me all the time, every time I'm out, even when I'm cutting the grass.
She's a jerk.
She has no life. This is what she does for a living.
It was never an assault. I mean, I went into court without a lawyer because I had nothing to defend.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Martin versus Acosta, step forward, please.
20-year-old customer service rep Stephanie Martin is suing daycare provider Christina Acosta for a refund of babysitting fees and medical bills. Stephanie claims, due to Christina's negligence, her 9-month-old daughter fell down a staircase. Christina is countersuing for slander.
Miss Martin, you have a baby girl?
Yes, ma'am.
And how old is the baby?
She's 10 months.
Miss Acosta was your daycare provider for a period of time. It is your claim that while the baby was in Miss Acosta's care, she fell down a flight of stairs while in a walker.
Correct.
You want a refund of the money that you paid her because you paid for that week in advance, and you want the child's medical bills covered, and you want something for pain and suffering for the baby.
Correct.
Miss Acosta says, pretty much, when children are in daycare, accidents happen. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And she is counterclaiming. She says that you have been bad-mouthing her around town, which has caused her insurance to go up. And some people have left her business, so she's suing you for slander, defamation.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The baby did, in fact, fall down the stairs while in your care.
Yes, correct.
So if Miss Martin said to other people that you were not a good daycare provider because you were negligent in allowing the baby to fall down the stairs, that would be true.
True.
So you can't sue her.
That's fine.
Good. How much did you pay each week for the baby to be
It was
cared for?
$20 a day, and I usually kept her in there for 4 days, so it was $80 a week.
And how much are you seeking back in fees that you prepaid?
$40.
That you had already paid for after this incident?
Correct.
Okay. And what are the medical bills?
One is $146 and one is $122.
The child is okay?
Yes, she is.
Lucky.
Yes.
How did she fall down the stairs?
I have a basement. The door was shut and it's always locked. All the children were watching TV. Destiny's in her walker, and she's just walking around. My friend of mine came over to the house, and I walked into the kitchen and retrieved a brochure for her. And I came back in to the living room. I noticed that 2 girls were gone. And I looked around, and then I heard Destiny in her walker near the dining room where the stairs are. And I heard the walker go to that first step. And I immediately ran to her.
But she fell down the stairs?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if the basement door is locked, how did it get unlocked?
The 2 girls that snuck away unlocked the door and went downstairs.
How old are the 2 girls who snuck away?
3 years old.
And how is the door locked?
It's a doorknob that has a lock on it. I have pictures of them.
Just a regular doorknob with a lock on it?
Yes,
where
ma'am.
you press?
No. turn.
That's not sufficient. If you have a 3-year-old that can reach that, that's not sufficient. You have to have a latch and hook an eye all the way up on top so that the basement door can't be opened. You were negligent. How many children do you take care of, Ms. Acosta?
6.
How old are they?
They range from 6 years old, and Destiny was the youngest. At the time, she was 8 months.
So why don't you think you're responsible for these medical bills or return of her $40?
Ma'am, I never refused to pay for medical bills. Miss Martin refused to give me the medical bills. I have the police officer's narrative stating that she refused to give him the medical bills so he could photocopy them and give them to me.
So you're not a licensed daycare provider?
No, ma'am. You have to have more than 6 children in your care.
Can you be licensed if you have less than 6 children in your care?
You can if you would like, but it's not necessary in the state of Ohio.
But you can?
If you wish.
Okay. She chose to go to court. She chose not to give them to police because she chose to pursue this by way of a civil remedy. I don't see... Listen, this was an accident. She was clearly negligent. Fortunately, your child was not injured. She got a couple of bumps and scrapes. It's not a case that I feel warrants $3,000 that you're suing for, but you certainly should have your expenses back. You certainly should have your money back. So I'm awarding you what that is, which is $308. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Salesperson Curtis Ross is suing his one-time girlfriend, student Christine Westfield, for the return of a television and a cordless phone. Christine is countersuing for an unpaid loan and the return of her husband's ring.
All rise. Yes, this is case number 112 on the calendar in the matter of Ross versus Westfield. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Mr. Ross, reading between the lines in your complaint, I gather that you and the defendant dated briefly while she was separated from her husband.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that during that time, you loaned her a television set and a telephone that had a caller ID on it. And you want those items back.
That's
what this case is about. Ms. Westfield says that you gave her absolutely nothing during the brief time that you dated or were in a relationship, that she went back to her husband, and that she, in fact, loaned you $300 for some reason that she's going to tell me, and that you also stole a ring that belonged to her husband that she wants back.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So, first tell me when you met her, Mr. Ross, and how you met her.
I met Christine in late December. I met her at a gas station. She had a military uniform on, and I was in the military. I was in the United States Navy, and that kind of sparked up the conversation. So she was pumping her gas, and we was talking about the Navy, and I said, hi, how you doing? Got to talking, asked her, could I take her out to dinner? She said that would be fine. And then she gave me a pager number at that time. She said, you can't call my house because I'm still living with my husband, so she gave me the pager number to call her.
But she told you she was separated from her.
She said that at that time she told me that she was separated, but then she said her husband still lives at the house.
Okay. So far, is that right?
We met in early January. That was the only discrepancy, but yes.
Other than that. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, and at that time I would call her. She would come visit me. She came and visited me for the first time on New Year's Eve. So we spent New Year's Eve together, and at that time she spent the night at that time. She complained about her husband being mean to her, and I said, hey, you might get in trouble. So she said she's gonna stay at her sister's house. That's what she told him. She's gonna stay at her mom's house, but she was staying at my house. She was at my house at that time. During the period of the time we dated on and off, I spent the night at her house. She spent the night at my house.
So you mean ultimately her husband left the house?
Eventually he left. After about 3 weeks he had left. And then I started spending the night over there because she was scared. She was scared because he had threatened her with a gun, said that he would kill her, pointed a gun at her. So she was scared for her safety. So she said, I didn't want to go over there, Jan. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't want to go over there.
I don't blame you.
You know, and I'll be honest with you, because she said he had a gun, because he's some kind of security guard or something. And I said, hey, shh.
Please.
But I've been in that situation before. I've been on his side before. I've been a guy that was kind of rough towards women. but I learned my ways. I was taught better than that.
All right, let's get to the television and that cell phone.
Okay, at that time, they was going through the divorce. What had happened was he had the police come over there and take the stuff. He took a fax machine, he took a TV, and at that time, she called me. I said, how can he come get stuff? Because when I went through my divorce, I had to wait for my divorce procedure.
Okay, so took the stuff, and what did you say?
I said, I think you need to see a judge before he can take any of your stuff. But she said, I'm tired of him. I just want him to get his stuff. He can take whatever he wants. She doesn't want to waste any more time with him. So at that time, she said her daughter had a PlayStation 2. You have to have a certain TV to play that. So I had that TV where you can plug the adapter. So I said, you can use that TV, but I'm going to need to get that back. She said she was going to get her income taxes or something like that and buy a whole new TV set. So at that time, I had brought the TV over. Her husband kept calling her, hanging up, threatening her on the phone. So I said, hey, use the call ID, because I was trying to look out for her, Yana. I said, use the call ID. I said, anytime he calls, you know, you can get him on the call ID. You can mark it, show it to the police station.
So she didn't have a caller ID?
She didn't have a call ID on her phone. So I said, you can use that. But I said, I'm going to need all this back, Christine, because I don't know, Christine was going back and forth. She said that she loved her husband, said she liked me. She kept going back and forth, so I didn't want to...
So that's how she got the stuff.
Right.
Okay. All right, Miss Westfield, is what you're telling me Mr. Ross is suffering from some sort of psychosis? You
Yes.
believe he's suffering from a psychosis?
I do. Because ever since I had told him I didn't want to talk to him, he's made my life miserable.
I don't care if he's made your life
Okay.
miserable, Miss Westfield. I want to know about the television set.
I've never received a television or a TV. I know we were talking about it, but he didn't have a car, so he could never bring it over. So I never got it.
I don't think I believe that.
Well,
Because if you're going to make up a story about owing money, owing property, you wouldn't make up a story about things that are so cheap as a television and a cell phone. You would say she said she needed money for a lawyer. I gave her $1,500. She needed money to pay bills. I lent her $2,000. This story that your husband came, cleaned out the house, took the TV, all sounds right to me. And he doesn't look like a psycho.
well, Your Honor, my husband never took anything out of our house. We never went that far in our divorce for division of property.
I didn't say that you went that far into division of property, but that doesn't mean he didn't take things out of the house, Miss Westfield. You understand?
Yes, I do.
Now, you want to tell me about your counterclaim?
My counterclaim is that I gave him $300 in cash to fix his car because he said my husband had did something to a wire and made it stop. So
When was that?
This was in February.
Well, tell me about it, Miss Westfield.
So I gave him the $300.
No, tell me about the whole incident. He came to you and said...
Curtis had came to me and said that his car wasn't working when one day before it was working. So then the next day he came and said it wasn't working.
Try looking at me right here.
And he said that my husband was messing around with his car, and I didn't agree with him at that time. But his car wasn't, you know, it wouldn't start. So I felt obligated, because things were getting all out of control, felt obligated to give him some money so his car could, you know, he could get it fixed. So I gave him $300 in cash. He said he would pay me when he got his first unemployment check. And then one day he came over to my house and I was showing him my husband's rings. And I don't know why I showed him these rings, but I did. And he was like looking at them, and then we had a conversation, and I wanted to prove to him that I wasn't going to go back with my husband. So I had shot one ring and threw it in the garbage, and then I had went back into my room to put the other rings away. So then when I came back, you know, we had a conversation, he left. Then the next day I noticed he had my husband's ring on.
So you took your husband's ring, you were so angry, and you threw it in the garbage?
Right, just one of them.
One of them?
Right.
After you threw the ring in the garbage, what did you do with the garbage?
Well, at that time it wasn't full, but, you know, in like a day or two, I'm sure I just threw it out.
So, Miss Westfield, it would be fair to say that you discarded that ring.
Correct.
He took it after you discarded it.
Right.
That's abandoned property, Miss Westfield. You abandoned that property. Therefore, Mr. Ross was entitled to take it. It's like if you put a sofa out on the curb for trash to take, and somebody says, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I owe her about maybe $35, and I give her that right now.
Take it out of your wallet.
It's like $30. Or did I say 35? 35.
You did say 35.
And later today,
In the morning when we woke up, we turned the TV on, but there was a big red blob in the middle.
What did Cameron tell you?
That the oldest one slammed him against the TV.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Curtis Ross says that during his affair with Christine Westfield, he loaned her the use of a television and a cordless phone. Curtis claims she refuses to give them back.
You threw his ring in the garbage. He took the ring out of the garbage. You didn't say to me, right away I went looking for the ring because I realized I made a mistake.
Well, that was my intention to do.
No, no, no. What you just told me that Miss Westfield, listen to me carefully.
Mm-hmm.
What you said was the garbage wasn't full. 2 or 3 days later, I took it and threw it away. You never even looked for the ring in the garbage. That's what you told me, right? Don't change your story now. You're not entitled to the ring back. Did she ever give you $300 to fix your car?
No, she didn't. What she did, Your Honor, she gave...
Look at me. Try looking at me. Don't you touch your papers.
I'm sorry. What she did is she gave me a Quest card. A Quest card is like a food stamp card to use to go shopping because she gets like welfare.
So what you're telling me is she never gave you $300. She gave you a Quest card.
She gave me a Quest card. At that time, she did not have a job. So she said she's been using her credit card. So I gave her $154 to put on her credit card. And, Your Honor, I owe her about maybe $35, and I give her that right now.
Take it out of your wallet.
I think it's like, you want me to give it to her?
I want you to give it to Officer Bird.
It's like $30. Or did I say 35?
You did say 35. Okay.
Receipt for this?
Yeah, I'm gonna need a receipt because I might have to come back for that. We might have to sue her again for that.
Thank you.
Now, you have a receipt for the television set?
No, ma'am. I don't have a receipt for that.
How much did you pay for it?
I paid $269. It has a remote control on it.
And the phone?
Control. And the phone, I pay like, it's a cordless phone. I pay like $65 for that.
You have a receipt for that?
No, ma'am.
Well, you got a lot of problems without receipts, Mr. Ross.
I know. I didn't think that she would do this to me, Your Honor. I was trying to help her out.
Well, she did, Mr. Ross, so you're supposed to have receipts. Issuing a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $275, and I am dismissing your counterclaim, Ms. Westfield. I don't believe that you loaned him any money, and the ring that you are demanding the return or value of, I believe you discarded, and he merely took it out of the garbage. Thank you very much. This case is over.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I knew I was gonna win.
I'm very upset.
Because she's been lying through this whole thing.
It was all just a big lie.
I tried to help her out, and it turned around and it bit me.
You know, he's making everything up to make me look bad.
I think she's in a terrible situation.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Camper versus Iglesias. Step forward, please.
Accountant Colleen Camper is suing her former landlords, Eloisa and Paul Iglesias, for the return of her personal belongings. The defendants are countersuing, claiming Colleen's children broke their widescreen TV.
Mrs. Camper, you and your family rented a room from the defendants. And according to your complaint, they kept your property when you moved out. You want your property back. Mr. and Mrs. Iglesias, I don't think deny the fact that they have your property. You have their property?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do.
Yes. What kind of property do you have that belongs to Mr. and Mrs. Camper?
There's some of their clothing, a computer, a couple of shelves, and pretty much it.
I have a list.
Let me see.
And this is just a generalized list.
Did you know each other before you rented this room?
No.
How did you find the room?
The neighbor across the street introduced us.
Okay, and why were you looking for a room? Had you been evicted?
We were supposed to be moving into another house that the neighbor across the street owns, and 2 days before we were going to be moving in, all of a sudden the girl that was supposed to be moving out didn't move out. So then we already had given our 30 days where we were at.
All right, she's got another story. In any event, you moved into their room. What kind of rent were you supposed to pay?
$600 a month.
Now let's get to the counterclaim. Counterclaim says that they owe you for rent because they didn't give you 30 days notice.
No, they didn't give us a notice.
Okay, fine. Where is the lease that they have that requires them to give you notice?
It was a verbal agreement.
No. You want them to give you notice, you have to give them a lease. Other than that, they're month to month, they can leave whenever they want. So you're not entitled to rent because they didn't give you 30 days notice. So let's eliminate that. Let's go to damage to the television set, because that's what really this whole case is all about. You claim that their two children damaged your 50-inch television set. I'm ready to hear evidence of that.
We went to a party. We didn't come home till about 12 o'clock at night. When we came home, her children were unattended downstairs by themselves watching our TV. And I had asked her when she moved in to please be careful with the TV because it's my husband's favorite TV. And she said, don't worry. You know, that's why we put a TV in their room. Every room upstairs has a TV.
Okay, so the children were downstairs watching television. Do you remember what they were watching?
Yes, I bought a movie, Daredevil, and they were watching the movie on DVD on our TV.
Okay, so they were watching it, and it was working?
Yes.
So?
Well, it was working, but we thought it was the video that we had purchased. There was a big red blob in the middle, and we didn't pay attention to it. We thought, okay, well, it's the DVD disc. We'll just turn it back to the store and get a new one because it's broken. In the morning when we woke up, we turned the TV on. The dot was still on there. And my husband kept switching the channels, and he says, well, there's something wrong with the TV. And then that's when my son told us what the kids had told him. And then she came down.
Just a second.
None of that's right.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Esteban.
Esteban, you weren't at home that day, is that right?
I wasn't home. I wasn't home when that happened.
Did you speak to the boys?
Yes.
Which boy did you speak to?
Cameron.
Which one is Cameron? Step up. When did you speak to Cameron?
The night when we were downstairs.
And you found that there was this dot on the television set?
Yes.
What did Cameron tell you?
Cameron told me that the oldest one slammed him against the TV.
That his brother slammed him? Is that right?
No, that is not right.
What did your older brother do to you?
We weren't playing around that day. We were sitting down and watching that TV, watching the TV.
Come up here. Just pay attention to me. How did the TV get broken?
I do not know.
Well, tell me what you think.
I think that there was a magnet on the TV that changed the TV color.
A magnet?
Yeah.
How did that, what kind of a magnet changed the TV color?
I don't know. I'm just saying that could have happened, what I thought happened.
Mm-hmm. So, Estefan is lying when he says that you told him that you were fooling around with the TV.
Yes.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay. When they came home, what were you watching?
We were watching cartoons.
Not the video?
Not the video. When they came home, I asked her if my brother can watch Daredevil because he'd never seen it, and they said yes.
So who put the video in for you?
Esteban did.
Estefan put it in?
Yes.
Step down. Is that right?
Yes.
So they were watching cartoons. They weren't watching a video when you came home, correct?
Yes.
And you went over to the television to put in the video for them?
Yes. But when we came home, I looked through the windows to see who was downstairs because the light was on. I saw both of them playing, and they're.
That's not what I'm asking you, Estefan. They were watching cartoons. There was nothing wrong with the cartoon picture, right? There was nothing wrong with the cartoon picture on the TV.
I didn't look at that. I wasn't watching with them. I didn't even look at the TV.
Well, you should have. To give them back their property. Do you understand? And you're going to do that within 5 days. You can't keep their property. That's stealing. Do you understand?
Yes.
So you're going to get your property within 5 days. Make arrangements to pick it up. You need to go there with a policeman, or you can go there by yourself.
Okay.
Now, you can't prove that it was their children that broke your television set.
We weren't home when it happened. And
well, maybe it just happened by itself. But we do know that your son put in a video. We do know that. Right?
Yes.
And we do know that you had the ability to look at that television set to see whether the cartoons that they were watching were being observed on a television screen that was broken or not. If you saw them downstairs watching television, and if you were concerned about it, you look and see whether or not there was any damage. The only damage that you saw was after your son put in the tape, right?
We went upstairs because we had babies. I couldn't go in to look.
Listen, I'm not faulting anybody. I'm just saying you can't prove that it was their boys that broke your television set. It's a rental that didn't turn out well. Do you rent any rooms to anyone else?
Not anymore.
Good. That's a very good idea, because when you rent rooms to people, they're going to be around your house, and you're not going to be able to tell who breaks what, especially if you leave, and you leave the house unattended. Do you understand? All right. Not a smart thing. Sorry that your television set got broken. You get your stuff back. I hope.
Crystal Padilla claims the father of her child, James Kern, falsely accused her of abuse to Child Protective Services. She is suing for her attorney fees.
Ms. Padilla, this is your ex-husband. You've been divorced since when?
Our divorce was finalized in November of 2004.
And you have one child together?
Yes.
How old is that child?
He's now 5.
I'd like you to keep your voice up, Ms. Padilla, because I have difficulty hearing you. Not because there's anything terribly wrong with my hearing, but I know that you may be a little nervous. You're speaking softly. You have to speak up like me.
No problem.
Great. Make believe you're yelling at him.
Shouldn't be a problem.
Your lawsuit alleges that Mr. Kern filed false allegations against you with Child Protective Services, forcing you to hire an attorney. You want your attorney's fees back and the expenses that you incurred as a result of defending that litigation. Mr. Kern says he had legitimate concerns over his child, and that's why he made the report. Okay? Do you have other children?
1.
How old?
Same age. A little older by a few months.
Who does that child live with?
Her. I didn't know of his existence till long after he was born. It's quite a story.
Well, it's quite a story, but it has an age-old beginning.
They're 6 weeks apart.
Another 10.
And I assume you've done the appropriate DNA testing and everything else? Paternity testing?
Correct.
So that while you were married, you fathered another child. Is that right?
No, it was before I was married. Before her and I got married, her and I were together. She told me she had an abortion, so we never talked again. Me and her got back together. And then after, actually the day my son Cameron was born, I get another phone call from her saying, oh, guess what?
Do you see that child?
No.
So that there are no other siblings in your house?
No.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
How old are they?
They're 7 and 5.
The 7-year-old is not Mr. Kern's child?
No.
When did you and Mr. Kern separate?
In November of 2002.
So the baby was an infant. Is there any issue as far as custody at that time?
At that time, Mr. Kern left, and Cameron did stay with me. And when we did our divorce papers, we decided to do 50-50 custody. And up until this recent event, we did share 50-50 custody.
When you say 50-50 custody, how did that break down in the week?
We would alternate weeks. 1 week I would have 3 days, he would have 4. The next week I would have 4 days, he would have 3.
So that really required that you live in close proximity to each other.
At the time, I was in Riverside, California, and he was up in Apple Valley, so about an hour away.
So, Mr. Kern, you had your son half the time.
Correct.
But you, I assume, always knew that there would come a time when he went to school and you couldn't have that kind of an arrangement because you can't live an hour away from each other and still do that.
Correct. I offered to put him in private school, and she didn't want that. She lives in Colton.
Just a second. You offered to put him in private school near you.
Correct.
Well, she didn't want him to be at private school near you. Shh, Mr. Kern, because that would mean that she would lose her 50% of the custody time. Sure it would, because if he's in private school near you, of necessity, he has to spend 5 days a week at your house. In any event, she said, no, I want to put him in school where I am, right?
Correct.
She wanted the child to go to school in her location. You wanted the child to go to school in your location. And then the trouble began. So, Mr. Kern, why don't you tell me the timeline from there? She brought papers to you to ask you to sign off so that you could register the child in school.
Yeah, and that if I didn't agree, she wouldn't let me have my son. She was going to leave in the parking lot right then and there. Actually, it started long before that. My son had lots of marks and bruises on him that were questionable. And every time I'd ask her, how did this happen? It was always the same story. Oh, he got it playing with his brother, or he got it fighting with his brother. One February day, she called me, said, hey, he had a bit of an accident. I don't know if I'm going to take him to the hospital or not. I'm just letting you know. I said, okay, do I need to come down there? I'll take him myself. She said, no. He showed up that weekend, and I have pictures right here. He has a complete black eye. He has a gash in his eye.
I'd like to see it.
And these are some other pictures of bruises and marks on him from when he's come from her house. Hand marks, bruise on his shoulder, other marks on his face from different times. And I took those pictures to my attorney, asked them what they think I should do, and that's when I took that to the court.
I wouldn't say a word if I were you. You are no relation to this case.
That's my wife.
I understand exactly who it is, sir. I understand exactly who it is, and if you want the situation with your son to ultimately resolve itself, I would suggest that she let you do the talking. That's the problem. Well, see, black and blue marks on his arms.
I also have a video that I think you need to see that's important in this case.
Oh, this is his leg.
This is just one of 100 times of how he acts when he goes back to his mother. And I think it's very important that you see this video right here.
Sure. And
after my attorney told me, after I took that to court for next court date.
Don't tell me what your attorney told you, sir. What your attorney told you was hearsay.
All right, here we go, guys.
Cameron, come on, baby. Hey, the sooner you go with your mommy, the sooner I get to come get you and we can do Christmas. Come on, honey. Cameron. Come on, it's time to go with your mommy, honey. Don't do that. Come on. Mommy misses you and she wants to see you. Okay, baby? Come on.
I've seen enough. Turn it off, please.
That's not even the good part. The part where he throws himself on the ground, and I asked, let me talk to him to calm him down. She won't let me. He's banging on the window in her car, screaming for me, and takes off.
I don't understand why you're photographing this.
Well, actually, that was upon her request in the court. She wanted to videotape pickups or drop-offs, so if somebody said something they shouldn't, they could take it to court.
That was at her request?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, I have it on the minutes.
I'd like to see it. It's a major concern to me to videotape a child like that, who's clearly as young as he is, playing for the camera. Well, this just says the parties stipulate that the visitation exchanges may be videotaped and audiotaped.
Yeah, she did that because she accused me of bad-mouthing her when I pick up or drop off my son. So the judge said that we can videotape or audiotape the pickup or drop-offs. And they...
Just a second. Then she didn't ask for it. She accused you,
and we
Mr.
went to
Kern.
court. Her
Mr.
attorney
Kern,
said,
listen to me. I'm really big on two parents getting involved and being integral parts of their children's lives, fathers and mothers. I think it's really important. And I don't know which one of you is a better custodial parent. I really don't know. Sounds to me as if you adore him.
It's my life.
And it sounds to me, based upon the answer that you submitted to me, that you legitimately feel that you are a more fit custodial parent. Maybe. But I'm telling you what I'm seeing. The injuries that you've shown me here are nothing compared to what my kids had when they were growing up.
But if your kid came
broken
on
arms,
his face or something,
broken
would you not be
arms,
concerned?
jumping off the beds with their siblings, banging heads, getting hit in the face with a lacrosse stick. All kinds of things happen to children, especially children who have a close-in-age sibling.
But then where's the supervision?
Excuse me?
If something like that happens to his face because he was fighting with his brother, where was the supervision?
Can't supervise children all the time, Mr. Kern. What planet are you living on, sir?
This one. These things don't happen at my house. I have 2 full-grown German Shepherds. He has his own bike. He has everything in the world a kid could ever want.
Kern,
and these things don't happen in my home.
Mr. Kern, what you don't have in your house is another child. The only issue in this case, as far as I'm concerned, is do these pictures of marks on the child give him sufficient reason for him to have placed a call to Child Protective Services to investigate?
I never called Child Protective Services. I just filed an ex parte hearing saying, for my concerns about those marks. I never called CPS not once.
Just a second. So you filed a proceeding, an ex parte proceeding, for what?
To get custody of my son so we could find out what was going on. I have letters here from a psychotherapist.
Just a second. So you had 50-50 custody, and based upon these photographs, you went to court through your attorney and filed an ex parte order seeking physical custody full-time of your child based upon these photographs.
And letters from a psychotherapist that interviewed my son to find out where the marks were coming from, which I have these right here as well.
So while the child was with you, in addition to taking these photographs, you took him to a psychologist.
Yeah, upon my attorney's advice.
Listen, Mr. Kern, I was there for 25 years. I know exactly what's going on, sir. I know precisely what's going on. Now, when did you file your ex parte proceeding, sir?
End of April '06.
And when did Ms. Padilla tell you that she wasn't going to allow you to enroll the child in private school in your area?
She served me on my first wedding anniversary, which was March 12th, '06, and that's where the court papers
Just a second.
began.
So in March of '06, Ms. Padilla served you with papers seeking what?
That she wanted him to go to school in her area, which is Colton.
So she served you with papers in March of '06. And in April of '06, you saw an attorney, brought photographs, and at that point filed your own ex parte order for of custody based upon allegations of abuse. Is that right?
According, yes.
I'm getting the timeline here.
Upon my attorney's advice.
That wasn't his first response to my petition. His original response noted nothing of physical abuse.
Okay. Then he took these pictures that he had been saving up and storing up since December of 2005.
That's not true. On my
attorney.
first response, noted a lot of things. The fact that she lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with her sister and her 2 children, with her other son and my son. My son coming to my house telling me he sleeps on the couch with his brother while she sleeps in her room with her boyfriend.
Mr. Kern, how much support do you pay for that child support?
Which one?
That lady's child. Hmm?
$250
$250 or what?
a month.
Pay it every month?
Nope.
So you don't pay child support?
Not every month. Sometimes I get behind on bills and stuff. I can't make the payment.
He hasn't paid in over 3 years.
Yes, I have.
I'm getting there. And how much child support do you pay now for this child?
I believe it was $400 a month if she took him to school. I let my employer have the information, and I don't think they've started that yet.
So how much do you pay her?
$400 a month or something like that. I don't quite
$400.
recall.
Well, the employer hasn't started deducting it from your salary yet. So how much do you give her every month?
Nothing.
Why?
Because if I give it to her, she'll never report it.
But in between the time that the child support order takes place, sir, and they start with the income deduction order, months could go by before that happens. So how do you expect your child to be supported? Okay, so now you have 2 children, and if I am correct, from what you tell me, Mr. Kern, who you want me to believe you're father of the year, you have 2 children for whom
I'm not father
you are
of the year.
currently paying 0 child support. And this from a man who said, I want to put my son in private school near me.
I had 50% custody at the time.
No,
Actually, I
no,
had
listen
more.
to me. Listen to me. This is from a man who said, I want to pay for private school. And now you tell me that you have 2 children, 5 years old, for whom you are currently paying nothing in child support.
That's not every month. Just because she hasn't received hers yet, that's the child support agency, not my fault. I'm not going to give it to her and have her deny it.
You got where we're going? He thinks he's a step ahead of me. I was there for 25 years, Mr. Kern. I know exactly what's going on. Exactly. Well, let's finish the scenario. You went to court. You had a lawyer. Did you have a lawyer?
On the Monday, I went to...
Just answer my question. Did you have a lawyer?
On our next court date, we did.
And the child's custody was immediately transferred to the father.
For
Is
the
that
month
right?
pending.
Just answer my question.
Yes.
For how long did Mr. Kern have custody?
Until May 17th of 2006.
And then what happened?
That was our original court date, and we went to mediation.
When you went back to mediation, was a forensic expert assigned to the case?
No.
We were assigned to do a 7:30 evaluation.
And what was the name of the therapist who was doing the evaluation?
Dr. Michael.
You have a copy of that report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. So as a result, I assume, at least in part of the forensic evaluation, the court determined that the custody arrangement that you originally agreed to was not workable.
Correct.
Is that right? And ultimately, primary physical custody was ordered to you.
Yes, it was.
And the court granted you visitation 3 weekends a month. Is that right?
Big drop from having them half the time, huh?
Absolutely right, sir. Absolutely right. You're supposed to try to work things out. You're supposed to be smart enough to know that whatever custody arrangement you make when a child is 2 is not going to be able to hold true when the child is 6 or 8 or 10 or 12. And you're supposed to be able to work with each other. And just because you got angry that she wasn't going to allow you to have your way...
How's that right? These pictures started being taken in December, beginning of December, when she filed in March. So, you know, magically appeared some pictures in December.
Kern,
These are concerns I've had for a while.
Either that, sir, or you don't understand what it's like to be a 5-year-old with a 7-year-old sibling, with a black and blue mark on the knee, with a scratch above the eye, with a black and blue mark on the hand, with scrapes across the face. Happens. It happens. And nothing that I read in this report suggested, absolutely nothing, that your child complained that any of those marks were as a result of his mother's actions.
I have some other letters here that you should read then.
Absolutely.
There is also a section about her in the 7:30 evaluation, the psychotherapist that wrote the letters that he's showing you now. And nowhere in that report does he say, my mommy hits me, my mommy beats me.
No, but it does talk about domestic violence, about how her boyfriend hits her and she hit him back.
Listen,
and that's from what he's seen.
The problem, Mr. Kern, is that you really are going to have to back off in interfering with what goes on in her house.
If your child sees domestic violence, should I not be concerned?
What I'm telling you is you have to back off as to what goes on in her house. You're not supposed to ask your son anything about what goes on in her house.
The therapist asked him that.
I didn't say the therapist. I said you're not supposed to ask him anything about what goes on in his house. And she's not supposed to ask him anything about what goes on in your house. You're both supposed to assume that each of you love him and want to take care of him and want to protect him and do the right thing. That's what you're supposed to assume. And you, Mr. Kern, are supposed to pay child support. For that child? For this child, who you now don't have in your custody? I mean, I read the report, and the report indicated that when this forensic evaluation was done, your son says you don't work, and you're home all the time.
No, I'm a contractor, so I choose my own hours.
That's what he says. He says, my father doesn't
Well, I
work.
make sure I'm home when he's there.
I'm telling you what your son says, sir.
And I know what he says, and I'll make
His son
explain it
says,
to you.
my father doesn't work. Well, that's not a good thing for a child to even think that his father doesn't work. That's what he said. Told the
Well, that's
therapist,
because he's
my
5
father
years
doesn't.
old. He thinks a magic wand pays the bills. Just because I go out of my way to make sure I'm home when he's there so we can spend time together. I work when he's not with me.
If you have him with you 4 days a week, sir, you should be working
It's
part
not
of that
4
time.
days a week.
That's what you told me.
I'm not home
You told
4
me
days a
that
week.
you
It
had
could be 3 days a week,
50-50
1 week.
custody.
It could be 3 1 week. It could be 2 if my
Mr.
wife's
Kern,
off.
you've got an
she
answer
watches
for
him.
everything, sir. What you're asking me for is counsel fees. That's what you're asking me for.
Right.
Counsel fees. And I'm not granting those because he went to an attorney. I just want you to think about this. He went to an attorney and sought the advice of counsel who represented him when you filed an application to terminate the 50-50 custody arrangement. So you filed the petition first. He had to hire a lawyer. And he just said, I'd rather be on the offensive rather than on the defensive because that's his temperament.
Well, he didn't consult an attorney first. He stated that my father told him to take me to court.
No, I didn't.
He went, listen, did he have an attorney representing him?
At the ex parte hearing, he did, yes.
Did he have the attorney representing him in the case that you filed?
No.
I'm talking about the original date in May, because that you said was the original court date you had on your application. Did you have an attorney or not?
Yes.
I believe he had an attorney. His attorney started the process, so the attorney had necessity had to be with him. You don't get your counsel fees. It's unfortunate that both of you spent your money on legal fees, but you don't get your counsel fees, just like he doesn't get his. But he's better start to pay child support.
They can't find any child support because I've received a 2-cent check since the child support was ordered.
That is not true.
Well,
here you go.
If he doesn't pay the child support order, what I'm going to suggest you do is go to the court and ask to have his driver's license suspended. You too. The first thing that states have to do under federal guidelines is license. And as a contractor, he needs that. Otherwise, his wife is going to have to drive herself to work and him to work. Don't let him get away without paying child support. That's his obligation as a parent, to you and to you and to your children. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Your case is dismissed. He's not required to pay your counsel fees. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused and they step out.
Jennifer Knoll says former landlord Michael Clover owes for the return of her security deposit and rent money. Michael is countersuing for damages to Jennifer's apartment and for lost revenue.
Ms. Knoll, the defendant was your landlord. According to you, you moved in. You were forced to move out. You want your security deposit back. You want your rent money back. Plus, you want punitive damages for harassment. The defendant says that you were, in fact, a very difficult tenant, that you caused damage to the property. There was a leak emanating from your apartment. You had a dog that was in violation of the lease, and he is countersuing for those damages. Okay. When did you lease this apartment?
I signed the lease in December 1st of 2006.
Who was living in the apartment?
Me and my 3 children.
Were you working at the time?
I was not.
How were you supporting the children?
I had child support coming in, and I was having subsidized housing.
The rent on the apartment without the subsidy was how much?
$650 a month, plus a $100 utility escrow.
And how much were you actually paid?
$344 a month.
And the rest was subsidized?
Correct.
When did you move out of the apartment?
July 1st, 2007.
Tell me why.
Michael Clover and myself have had a very tumultuous relationship as far as landlords and tenants go. During my time as renting with Mr. Clover, he's accused me of owing him money several different times. He's came over to my house screaming and swearing at me along with his wife. I've had to have police escorts for him coming into my house.
Did you pay your rent on time every month?
Every month, and I did prove that to him in April when he sent me an invoice.
Can I see that you paid your rent on time every month?
That is up through, I believe, April, possibly later.
I seem to have checks, sir, for all of her rent with your endorsement on the back of those checks.
Correct.
So she doesn't owe you any money.
Yes, she does.
For what?
For rent and also for utilities.
Which rent does she owe you for?
She owes me for July of 2007, and she owes me for utilities.
Just a second. Was she living there in July?
No.
Okay, forget July.
Okay.
She lived there in June?
Okay.
Good. Let's move on.
I would like to state, within that $344, there was a $25 dog allowance in there. I had told him at the end of December that I was getting my dog back from my ex-husband, and my dog would be moving in there. So right in your paperwork that you have, it shows that I have been paying for my dog also.
I want to see the lease.
The lease does not include a pet.
Rent on the apartment was $650.
Correct.
And you received how much from the state?
$341.
$309.
Okay.
That's what she should have been paying you. $309. She was paying you $344.
She was owing for utilities, Your Honor. The utilities were not divided up to $100 a month until sometime in late 2007. They were getting out of hand because she wouldn't be paying the utilities. The bill was split in half.
No, don't speak.
And
he's talking now. Do you understand?
the lease states that they pay the utilities.
The utilities included into the month's rent.
No, impossible.
In January, I paid $244 because that was my portion of the rent, was $244 plus the $100.
That's impossible. I mean,
plus
it's
the
impossible.
$100 or
Miss,
utility
no, it's
escrow.
no, your portion of the rent is $409
I believe he's
a month.
incorrect in that amount.
Your Honor, might I?
Is what you're telling me in your sworn testimony
Yes.
that you got $341 for her as a subsidy each month? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any proof of that?
Yes, Your Honor.
My rent due was $208 plus the $100 utility escrow. $650 minus $341 is $208 plus the $100.
I believe there are only about 3 landlords in our whole area that accept the housing authority stuff, and we really go out of our way to try to help these people.
Just a second, sir. You just showed me a check, Mr. Clover, for February in the amount of $431.
Thank you.
You just showed me a check in the amount of $431, not $331.
I apologize.
sir.
It's $431. That's what the housing is paying.
Thank you. Very different, sir.
I'm sorry.
So it's $650 less $431 equals $219. That's her share of the rent.
Correct.
Now, she's been paying $344. She's been paying $100 for the utilities. That would be $319 and $25, you say, for some of those months for the dog.
Correct, and that included...
$344. Absolutely right. She's absolutely 100% correct based upon what you just gave me.
There was no agreement for a dog to be there, Your
Well,
Honor.
listen to me, Mr. Clover. Then why did you take an extra $25 a month from her?
She was paying erratically all along.
Erratically doesn't mean anything. She's paid up. I have her cancel checks that you cashed, sir. You want to dispossess somebody, you dispossess them. You go and you file a notice of eviction, you evict them. That's what you do. But you don't take their money. Okay, so you moved out. What do you want from him?
I would like the $650 security deposit doubled because he did not return my security deposit back within the 30 days mandated by Wisconsin statute.
Fine. Why doesn't she get it back?
Well, Your Honor, first of all, there was at least 3 times that I had called her to ask her about her rent.
I don't want to hear rent anymore. Listen to me carefully.
Off the rent.
She doesn't owe you a penny
Not
for
a
rent.
problem. Okay.
Doesn't owe you a quarter. You were paid your rent. Now, security deposit is what she wants back. She gave you $650 security deposit. Explain to me why. It's very easy. All you have to do is show me pictures. Show me pictures of the damage that she or her children or her dog caused to the property, and I will dismiss her.
Okay.
Very easy. Show me the pictures first.
Here are some pictures of the leak that was caused by her and repairs. This particular picture here shows where the damage was, is in the wall there, and is located right at this point on this type of a pipe. Now, this is a shower saver head, which is mandated in our area for all rental properties. There's a picture here of the shower head that she installed on there. It might be in those pictures. It's a white head.
I got it.
Okay, so it's a different one.
Just a second. Did you change the shower head?
Yes, but that is
Okay.
not the shower head that was on there when I moved in. That is not the
I don't
type
care
of shower head.
whether it was or whether it wasn't. When did you change the shower head?
Pretty nearly immediately.
Okay. And then there was a leak in your apartment.
I didn't notice a leak, no.
But there was a leak.
Apparently downstairs there was a leak.
Where was it coming from?
The downstairs tenant said it was coming from my bathroom area.
Okay. And did you fix it?
Yes, I did.
And where was it coming from?
Well, it was coming from this pipe that came out of the wall, and this pipe here was broken off in the threaded area. I brought this along to...
Just explain it to me, sir. Okay. Now, she replaced the shower head.
They
plumbing
broke it when they did that.
Shh. She replaced the plumbing fixture, which she's not permitted to do.
Right.
And what you're telling me is that was the cause of the leak that went into the lower apartments.
Correct.
Fine, and through the wall.
Yes, I had to cut the wall out, and the pictures show...
I see that you had to cut the wall out.
And the downstairs...
You can't do that.
The shower head that was in there had a hole in it, there was a crack on it, and it was not a shower saver.
Show me where you sent him a letter indicating that.
There's nothing saying that I couldn't change the shower head.
If you
he told me to change the place as my own.
Listen to me. If you put in a new shower head as a tenant and disconnect what he has, and I assume you did it yourself?
It was just a little shower head
I
from
assume
Walmart.
you did it yourself.
Yes.
And if there's a leak, you're responsible.
But the leak was there prior head per the conversation of the person underneath in my house.
Okay.
It had been
That's
leaking there for
hearsay.
months.
That's hearsay. What else, Mr. Clover?
Well, I'd like to get paid for the damages to
Just
repair
a second.
that leak.
Just a second. Show me the bill.
Okay.
No way. I said I want to see the bill,
Your
not
Honor.
what you typed up.
This is not a bill?
No, that you typed up.
This is a bill typed up.
Who typed
explaining-
it?
I did.
What else, Mr. Clover?
Your Honor, am I allowed to get paid for the work that I do on in my apartment as the maintenance person for myself?
If the question you're posing to me, sir, is, are you entitled to offset her security deposit for a leak that she caused, the answer is absolutely you are. And if what you do for a living is manage this building, then you're not entitled to your time. You are entitled to parts. You're entitled to helpers. But if what you do is manage this building and gain revenue from this building, there's no way for me to say to you, listen, you work 40 hours a week. You didn't do this other than your work week.
Your Honor, I charged $250 to cut a hole 6 foot wide by 2 foot
This
wide.
is what you do for a living, sir. Is this what you do for a living?
But I cut the hole
Yeah, I understand.
through
I
the
got it.
drywall.
I got it.
I took the pipes and cut them. I welded them back together and put this stuff, and I'm not allowed to get paid for that time.
You are paid
Thank
for
you,
that.
Your Honor.
Sir, you are paid for that time.
How?
From renting your apartments. That's your maintenance on the apartments.
She caused the leak?
I am certainly, sir, listen to me. Hey! I am certainly prepared to compensate you and to deduct from her security deposit any parts that you had to purchase as a result of her negligence. Absolutely. Show me what you spent for parts, and I will absolutely deduct it from her $650. So because of that,
Your Honor,
listen to me. Listen to
excuse me, Your Honor, with all due respect,
you're not
I'd like
paying
to ask
attention.
you-
You think you're going to talk over me, Mr. Clover? That's
No.
not happening.
I would just like
Mr.
to
Clover, that's not happening.
Okay.
What else, Mr. Clover?
Carpeting damage.
When was the carpet put down in the apartment that she rented?
2 years before she...
I'm not interested in carpeting damage. If it was put down 2 years before she moved in.
In the living room. In the bedroom, the carpet was put down just before she moved in. It was new.
Show me the bill.
Okay.
No. Listen to me. What I asked you for, Mr. Clover, you're not following me, sir. Put the picture down. I want the bill for the bedroom carpet.
Okay, Your
That
Honor,
you-
allow me to explain, please. The place has been vacant since the tenant moved out. I got a letter from her asking to get out of her lease, and I told her that we would happily let her out of her lease if she was to provide us with another tenant to take over the responsibilities. Otherwise, we don't just let people out of their leases, just, you know, you can get out next
I
month.
assume you're getting to the carpeting, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Get there fast. I have other things to do. Get to the carpet. I asked you for the bill for the carpet that you put in immediately before she moved in.
I don't have that.
Okay, let me see a picture of the carpet immediately preceding her moving in the bedroom. Bedroom carpeting looks pretty bad. Miss Knoll.
This is the condition that the stove was left in, Your Honor.
me
I
see.
know that it's going to be hard for me to say that I want $25 to clean the stove out.
Do you have any other pictures you want to send up here?
May I see this?
Yes, this one right here.
May I see the picture of the stove, please?
Absolutely.
Wait. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your Honor, I would like to mention quickly that this is my own personal stove. I had removed his and used mine and then put his back into the apartment. This is my own
me see.
personal stove.
Did you leave these things in your apartment?
The stuff that was there was left there before I moved in. Nothing was left there of mine.
Just a second. He took this picture, and I assume you removed the stove. And when you left, you took this stove.
Correct.
Show me where you took this stove.
I can't prove where I took that stove. That stove is now in another apartment with my ex-husband.
No, I don't believe you.
It is. He
I
has
don't
a
believe
brown
you. Who
range
moved,
stove.
Who moved the stove?
I'm sorry?
Who moved
My
the stove?
father.
You moved this filthy stove?
I did.
I don't believe it.
Oh, yeah.
Don't believe it.
And in
Okay.
fact, I can say that when we were moving it, it was heavier than sin because I helped.
Well, let me tell you something. This
That's
stove
my
is a-
stove.
Just listen to me. If it is, it's an indication that the place was a mess.
No.
Listen to me. If it is, if this is your stove, and this is an indication of the way you kept this apartment, just listen to me very carefully, madam. When I agree with you, I agree with you. When I don't agree with you, I don't agree with you. I told you, you're futzing through your papers. If this is an indication on how you keep your apartment, you kept your apartment messy. That's not a sin to keep your apartment in a messy state. But if this is an indication of a stove that you took with you, and gave it to your ex-husband, and why you would want to give this piece of crap to your ex-husband that you kept like this, I have absolutely no idea. Also, the carpet was clearly stained.
It was stained when I moved in. I asked Mr. Clover several times to provide me
Show
proof
me-
of the previous tenant's move-out
Show me
record.
the letters that you sent him about the carpeting.
Not about the carpeting.
Just-
I have.
That's all I asked you. I said, show me a copy of the letter you said about the carpeting.
I don't have anything for the
Right.
carpeting. I have something for him claiming that I wanted to see why he was charging me what he was charging me. I also have something
Well,
stating
clearly
that
this was not a
I
marriage
wanna
made in
see-
heaven. Madam, you paid rent and you lived there.
I want to see what
Listen
the
to me. You
ex-landlord,
paid
the
rent.
ex-tenant paid.
You paid rent and you lived there.
And I admit
And you
that
do-
the boys' bedroom carpet was messy.
And listen to me carefully.
But it was not new when I moved in.
Listen to me. You created a certain problem in the apartment through your own negligence. You are not getting your security back. End of discussion. What's next?
Mr. Clover did turn me into the child welfare. I have a showing here that I did not have. There was unfounded. My house was not messy except for the stove and a coffee pot.
Very good. Not interested. What else?
I want my 12 days rent back from December. I was not able to move in until the middle of December due to the
You
inability
don't
to
get
move
it. You lived there until July. If you
I
didn't
did
want to
move
move in, don't move in. What
I
else?
couldn't move in due to
What
the
else?
apartment's condition.
What else?
I could not move in due to the apartment's
What
condition.
else? You're not getting it. You lived there December, January, February, March, April, May, June. If you didn't like the circumstances, tell him. Tell him.
I did.
I'm
I asked
leaving.
several times,
Tell
and it
him
was condemned by
I'm-
the health department.
Then you shouldn't have moved in. You should have moved back with your father.
I
What
would have
else?
liked to, but I have 3 children and
What
I need to have
else?
a house.
I'm sure he loves his grandchildren. What else? What else? That's it. You paid $200 a month rent for this apartment. The citizens of the county where you live paid the rest. You're not getting any money back. What else can I do for you? Nothing. Good. Now, listen to me. You've got her $650 security deposit.
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to have to make do with that to fix anything that you want
That's
fixed as a result of her tenancy.
That's fine,
We
Your
understand each other? What else do you want?
I would like $650 a month for lost rent and revenue up and through whatever is allowed by our state, which is $5,000.
Why? For what?
Her father is a police officer, and the day that I came over there to fix the water leak, and she was screaming and stuff at me about how mad she was about having to pay a $25 late fee for her rent. Then her father came around the corner with a gun on his side, and he had his hand on his gun, and he was in a hurry running up towards me with this gun. He had a mechanic's
Just a
blue
second.
shirt on.
What does this have to do, sir, with lost rent?
Father and her got together and had the city of Altoona go ahead and send me a letter saying that I could not operate that as a rental house anymore because it was in a commercial location.
Sir,
It
sir,
had
listen to
been-
me. Listen to me.
Yes.
If the city where you live does not allow you to rent, it's because they blew the whistle on something that they felt was improper, and you think that they have motives, which were ulterior motives, because she wanted out of her lease. If that's what you're telling me, it doesn't make any difference. If you're not allowed to be a multiple dwelling, you're not allowed to be a multiple dwelling. And I don't care whether they had good motives or bad motives for reporting you. Anyway, you have your $650. You, on the other hand, have nothing. You had a place to live. You live there. Goodbye. Good luck. Thank you very much.
23-year-old Lisa Murray is suing her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old Ish Easton, for the cost of a plane ticket to New Jersey. Ish claims Lisa is being vindictive.
Miss Murray, Mr. Easton and you dated briefly, according to your complaint, and you believe he owes you for an airline ticket that you purchased for him in order that the two of you go home to meet the parents. And then you broke up for the trip. Mr. Easton says that the going home to meet the parents was strictly your idea. He never asked you to buy the ticket. You bought it on your own, so you pay for it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did you meet him?
February 2006. We were working together.
And when did you start dating?
We started dating in the beginning of June 2006.
And when did you want to go and introduce him to your family?
Through the month of June. We're in the beginning of July 2006. Our relationship became serious.
No. You're talking so fast I can hardly understand you. I asked you a simple question. When did you want to take him home to meet your parents?
July 2006.
After 4 weeks? Why?
Well, I had missed my family very much, and he also said that he would like to go. He was excited about going to see New York City and seeing New Jersey.
If he was so excited, why didn't he buy his own ticket?
He currently did not have the money at the time, nor did he have a credit card.
What was the arrangement that you made with him?
That when we came back from our trip, that he would be reimbursing me.
And when did you break up?
September.
And when were you supposed to go to New York?
September 9th, 2006.
I'll hear you.
After she had initially brought the idea to go visit her parents, I told her then, I was like, well, I don't have money.
No, look at me, look at me.
Oh, I told her then, I don't have money to pay you back for any kind of ticket before we even discussed repaying anything.
Why would you say that to her? I thought you met at work.
This is after we started dating, man.
No, listen to me. You're not listening. You don't have your listening ears on. You said, I don't have any money. And she just told me that you met at work in February of 2006. What kind of work were you doing?
I, at the time, was working at Home Depot, man.
And in July, where were you working?
I worked for a structural engineering firm.
And in August?
Still worked there, man.
Okay, so you were working, you were employed.
Yes.
Do you have children?
No, before dating Miss Murray, I was in a previous relationship. Separating from that relationship, I had to move back home. But upon moving back home, my parents were like, well, you got to help pay bills and stuff like that. So I pay half of everything.
So?
Leaving pretty much nothing.
Well, that's not true. You have money to eat out, right?
On occasion, man. And that was money that I was like, Mom, you know, can I borrow $50 to go out? Or
Mr. Easton, when you discussed with Miss Murray going to New York, I don't believe that you said to her, I don't have the money to pay you now, and I'll never have the money to pay you back, because I don't think that under those circumstances she would have continued to see you, because that would have sounded like something a bum would say. I don't have money now, maybe. I'll never have money to pay you back. I wouldn't have taken you to meet my parents. I would have been humiliated to take you. You're a bum. If you say, I'll never have any money to buy an airline ticket for $295. So I don't believe that you said that to her. I believe that you probably said to her, I don't have money to pay for it now. That I believe. Now, when did she buy the ticket?
She called me and was like, I bought tickets to go to New Jersey.
No, you had already discussed it. So don't say it came as a surprise to you. It didn't come as a surprise.
I don't know the exact date of her
When did you
buying
purchase the tickets?
July 25th, I purchased the tickets. I have phone calls.
Shh. And she told you that she purchased them in July?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And you were working in Home Depot?
I was working at Home Depot and the engineering firm at the same time.
So 2 places?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do with the ticket?
I was unable to refund it because he broke up with me within 24 hours prior to canceling it.
You have the bill?
Yes.
Why did you break up right before you were ready to leave for New York, sir?
Well, there was a span of like 2 weeks where her and I barely ever saw each other. And that was because my work schedule at the engineering firm went from a regular 8-hour day to 9 to 12-hour days. And I didn't have time to see her. It was work, home, work, bed, pretty much.
Okay.
A gentleman that I play football with, his girlfriend and Miss Murray became very good friends, hanging out, had informed me that the plaintiff had gone to MySpace and read a quote that I'd written on MySpace. And that was one of the first issues. One of the other issues was
Did you say something not nice about her?
I didn't say anything toward her at all. The quote that I left on my page said, "Due to the pain caused by love, to love I say," and that was nothing toward her previous relationship exactly to that. Then it went from that to she had been saying, "Oh, I don't have money, I don't have money, I don't have money." Well, then my friend's girlfriend is like, "Oh, we went shopping today, and Lisa bought this, and Lisa bought that, and Lisa bought this."
What does it make any difference to you whether she said, "I don't have money"?
Well, because if you're going to tell me you don't have money, then how you going to turn around and go shopping?
She wasn't asking for money from you, was she?
Initially broke up with her because she lies. You can't trust a liar. You can trust a thief because you know they're going to steal. You can trust a killer, you know they're going to kill, but you can't trust a liar. I asked her, I said, "Well, did you go on my MySpace page and read that?" She said no. And before that, I said, "Is there anything you want to tell me about that you haven't said to me in the past?" "No, there's nothing I can think of."
You're going to get your $2 back for the ticket. Before you leave, you get down on the floor, on all fours, kiss the ground, and say, "God, thank you for terminating this relationship, because this guy is no good. No bargain, no good, no way." I don't know much about you. I don't know if you're good, but I can tell you right now, he's a bum. He's always going to be a bum, because he makes excuses for what he does that bear no resemblance to reality. That's what he just did. He just gave me a whole cock and bull story. In reality, he probably found somebody else to cover some of his bills. Because when someone is so smitten with a woman, they don't not see them for 2 weeks. They may give up sleeping, but they won't go work, job, work, school, work, and not see the person for whom they have lost their heart. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So he made up a whole big story. Nothing in his story was true. So you're a very lucky girl that you got rid of him, because for somebody who doesn't like lying, he has become very proficient at it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $295. That's all.
23-year-old Nicole Murray is suing her ex-boyfriend, Sean Simmons, for an unpaid loan, daycare costs, and harassment.
Miss Murray, the defendant is your former boyfriend, and quite foolishly on your part, you made 2 children with him. That is probably after you already knew that he had, according to you, a serious gambling problem. It is your claim that he forced you to take out a loan.
Yes.
That the loan was to be used to pay some bills, that you claim that he gambled the money away. He says he did not. He said it was either lost or stolen. You also claim that he owes you money because he said he would pay for the children's daycare, or at least half of it, and he didn't, and that he has been threatening you.
Yes.
So you want to be compensated for that, too?
Yes.
What was the loan for, Mr. Simmons?
It was a title loan on her vehicle, 2002 Ford Explorer, for our rent.
And when the loan was taken out, the check was cashed.
Correct.
And who took the money?
I did.
And what did you do with it?
Well, we left from where we got the loan, went back home, and then the next day I went and got a haircut at the local Walmart. I had like $974 on me. Paid for my haircut, went to Arby's, ordered some food, went to pay for my food, realized I didn't have my wallet.
So you either lost your wallet or it was stolen?
Correct.
Where's the police report?
There is no police report, Your Honor.
I don't believe you.
That's your choice, Your Honor. I mean,
That's my
the truth.
choice, that's my right. Because anybody who has a wallet stolen or lost, and that's their rent money,
well, if you'd let me finish, Your Honor.
They file a police report.
Your Honor, like I said, let me finish.
Show me a report
I then went back to Walmart. Okay?
Yes.
I then went back to Walmart, had my wallet. There was no money in my wallet.
Show me the report.
What report would there be?
From Walmart.
Your Honor, that night...
Shut. There would be a police report that you were the victim of theft. Even if that were not the case, let's say you left your wallet on the counter when you got your haircut. You're responsible for the lost money.
No, I'm not, Your Honor.
I don't care whether you say you are or whether you say you aren't. That's why you're here, sir. That's why I went to law school. And what do you do for a living?
I'm currently unemployed.
That's why I went to law school and you are unemployed. All right. How much was the loan? $1,000?
It was $1,010.50.
Okay. Now, give me in 30 seconds or less how he's been harassing you and threatening you to the extent that I'm going to compensate you for that.
Ever since we moved out to my mom's house, and then we moved out into a place of our own, and ever since then it was threats daily.
Then you leave.
Calling.
Then you leave.
I didn't want to rip our family apart.
Well, that's too bad. Then you don't come in and complain about it now. You
Well, then-
left, ultimately, correct?
Yes, I did, and
Very
I got an
good.
OFP.
A protective order?
Yes.
Perfect. Good. That's what you should have done before. Now, tell me about this money owed for daycare.
I pay daycare for our 2 youngest children. I pay my mom $50 per kid per week, so that totals $400 a month.
Yes.
And I've always paid the daycare. He has never helped take care of any of his kids. He's got 5 kids, and he doesn't support any of them.
He had 3 before he had 2 with you?
Yes.
You should have had a clue.
Yes, I should have.
You should have had a clue before you had 1. You should have had a bigger clue before you had 2. And unless you could prove a contract with Mr. Simmons to pay half the daycare, you will address that issue when you take him to court for support.
I never knew anything even about the daycare, Your
Just
Honor.
listen to me. Does it sound like I'm against you right now on the daycare, sir? So why don't you just keep your mouth? I don't want you to make a point. I want you to be quiet unless I ask you a question.
Okay.
Perfect. Do you understand?
Yes, and child support is pending.
Good. When you have a child support order against him, then he will have the parameters of his responsibility with regard to these 2 children. And if he fails to pay the child support order, and if that judge has any gumption, she'll put him in jail for non-payment of child support. But unless you have a contract with him, oral or written, with regard to payment to your mother for watching your children, he's not responsible for it. Do you understand?
Yeah, but he's always told me he'd help me out.
Well, help
when
you
it
out is not a
comes to the
contract.
kids.
Help you out is not a contract.
And I
Right
do
now,
help
he
her
owes
out.
you $1,010. That's for the money that he either lost or stole or gambled away. Anything else? Perfect. Thank you. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Salminio Moten is suing his ex-fiancée, Andrea Umersky, for the return of a laptop. Andrea claims Salminio gave her the computer before he was deployed to Iraq.
Mr. Moten, it is your claim that the defendant, who is your former girlfriend, has a computer that belongs to you. You want it back.
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendant says that you gave her the computer a long time ago. It was a gift. It was a second computer that you had. You had bought yourself a new one. She has a counterclaim for a whole bunch of nonsense. How old is this computer, Mr. Moten?
3 years old, Your Honor.
When did you buy yourself a new computer, Mr. Moten?
2008, Your Honor.
Why did you buy yourself a new computer?
Because I was getting deployed to Iraq, and the old computer, it was old and it was slower than my new computer. So I felt I needed more storage.
And you were taking the new computer to Iraq?
Yes, for business matters.
So you bought yourself a new one. And at that time, you were involved with the defendant?
Yes, Your Honor.
She was your girlfriend?
She was my girlfriend at that point, Your Honor.
Tell me about when he gave you the computer.
When he came back home on leave, we were scheduled to be married, and he gave me the computer when he left back.
What did he say?
He didn't really say much. I mean, he just left it for me because he had a new computer. He didn't need it anymore.
What did he say to you?
There was no specific that, I mean, I recall that he said he just gave me the computer. We jointly lived together. I mean, I have a text message stating that I can have the computer after we broke up.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
If the screen goes blank, you can just press the OK button.
Bird is the button presser.
That would be his number listed below, his cell phone number.
It's cool to keep the laptop. Just give me my mail and my clothes. Did you send that to her?
I think so, Your Honor. Yes, I did.
So?
Well, at that point in time, I felt like at that point in time, I had no way of getting my laptop. I had to get...
Just a second. You went to Iraq, you came back, you broke up. The reasons for it are irrelevant to me. And when you came back, you asked her for the computer.
Yes, Your Honor.
And she said to you, you gave it to me.
No, she said, for me to give you my computer, you have to give me $400 for her ring.
And you said what?
I said, I don't owe you for the ring because I...
Fine. You said, I don't owe you for the ring. That's part of a counterclaim. I don't have to hear that just yet. But at some point, she had your mail and your clothes.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you said to her, it's okay, keep the laptop, which she's now had in her possession for over a year, correct?
Yes.
Keep the laptop, just give me my mail and my clothes. That's what you wrote. Did you get your mail?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you get your clothes?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Well, then she keeps the computer.
Well,
you
no,
made a bargain with her. You said, give me my mail, give me my clothes, you keep the laptop. You got your mail, you got your clothes, she keeps the laptop.
She was asking to keep the laptop because she needed internet access for her and her kids. I was being generous by letting her keep it, but...
Well, you were being generous by letting her keep it. That's what you said. Mr. Moten, were you out of the country serving your country at war?
Yes, Your Honor.
You saw lots of them?
Yes, I did.
You don't have to go back anymore, do you?
No, not at this point, Your Honor. No.
Great. And you're home safe and sound, right?
Yes.
And we're talking about a computer that was so old and slow that you got rid of it, that you bought yourself a new one.
Yes.
right?
I did, Your Honor.
Just a second. Old, slow, bought yourself a new one. You know how many old computers I have in my house? My husband says they're too slow. I said, where are you going? He said it has to be faster. But you got yourself a faster one, right?
Yes, I did.
Right, and you came home safe and sound. What are you bothering with minutiae for? What are you bothering with nonsense for, Mr. Moten? Especially when you said to give me my mail and my clothes and keep the laptop.
Well, I had important files on my laptop that I really wanted.
And you did without them for almost 2 years now, right?
Yes.
You'll do it without them for another 20.
I asked her to put it on a hard drive.
And did she?
No, she wanted to keep the whole laptop.
Just a second. Did he ask you to store some stuff for him?
No.
No, of course not. He's making it up as he's going along. Forget it, Mr. Moten. You got home safe and sound. You gave her the computer probably before you left because you got yourself a new one. That's what boyfriends do for their girlfriends. They say, here, let the kids use this one. Let the kids play games on this one because I got one that's faster, that's got more memory, that's got this. And then when you broke up, now you want your computer back.
Well,
and she's not going to give it to you. She's not going to give it to you because you gave it to her. Not once, probably, but twice. Now let's get to your nonsense counterclaim.
Okay. Your Honor, when he asked me to marry him, he agreed that I would go purchase the rings on my credit card, and when he came back 2 months later, he would pay the full bill. We later did break up, and we agreed that because he had one ring and I had the other ring, that he would pay half, and I also have an email saying that I will pay half. I don't have a problem with that, and here's the bill. But it's from a month ago, so there's still late payment charges on there. I haven't paid it. I have 3 children. I have more important bills to pay than a credit card bill.
Did you tell her to go buy 2 rings?
No, Your Honor. She bought the rings on her own.
It says, I will pay my half. I don't have a problem with that. Hope everything goes well with your new relationship. I wish you all the best. Did you send this to her?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Just a minute. You have 1 ring, correct?
Yes, I do.
Well, who's supposed to pay for that ring?
Well, she actually gave it to me as a gift, and she was asking me to pay for it.
Let me see it.
So the ring?
Yeah.
I didn't bring it, Your Honor. I forgot it.
Mr. Moten, you're really annoying me. I mean, you did get a copy of her counterclaim, did you not, about the ring?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Well, how could you not bring it if I wanted to look at it? How much was the ring that he has in his possession?
Here's the original bill.
That's what I want to see.
Okay. And then there's the interest and stuff incurred because he didn't pay the original bill, which we agreed that we would each split half of the bill last month.
All right. How much was his ring?
It was the less expensive one on there.
So his ring was $200?
I believe so.
You get to keep the computer, madam. And he owes you $200 for his ring. That's all.
As I excuse, you may step out.
Billy Tyler says his daughter, Tiffany Cantrell, had him falsely arrested for stealing her car.
Mr. Tyler, the defendant is your daughter, and it is your claim that she had you falsely arrested for stealing her car. Your daughter says that you did exercise control over that car without her permission. She had every right to notify the police that you had, in fact, taken the car without permission. So let me start with you, Miss Cantrell. I understand that you are married.
Yes, ma'am.
Your husband is in the armed services.
Yes, ma'am.
Where is he currently located?
He's in Afghanistan.
And how long has he been there?
He's been deployed since October.
This car was originally purchased for him.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how it came about that your father got the car in his possession.
The car was on my grandmother's property, and he took it because he was angry that my mom had left him.
Where did you get the car from, Mr. Tyler?
Judge, I originally bought the car in Cleveland, Alabama at a car auction.
What do you mean you bought the car?
I was there to buy some cars, and my ex-wife had called her, and she came over to the auction. And she seen the car, and she said, I'd like to have this for Kevin, her husband.
Who paid for the car?
She did.
So that
But
she
wrote a
bought the
check.
car.
She
You
wrote-
didn't pay for the car.
No, she
Well,
wrote
you
a
said
check.
I bought the car
Well,
at an auction.
I
You
meant,
didn't-
Judge, that I was there to buy the car, and she wanted it, so I let her have it. That's how.
You were at an auction to buy several cars. Your daughter
Yes.
came with you. She saw a car that she wanted. She wrote out the check for it. So she bought the car.
Right.
Don't play
Right.
with me, Mr. Tyler.
Okay, I'm not, Judge.
I guarantee you
Okay.
it's not going to happen. Okay, so your daughter bought a car, and according to her, she parked it at her grandmother's house.
No, Judge.
Where was it?
It was in my yard.
So it was in the yard of the house where you were living.
Uh-huh.
Who were you living there with?
My ex-wife.
Anybody else?
My cousin.
What's the address of this house?
77, Highway 75.
And is that where the car was taken from?
No, ma'am.
Where was it taken from?
71, Highway 75.
That's where your grandmother lives?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you live next door to your mother-in-law?
That's my mother, Judge.
Your mother?
Yes, ma'am.
Was the car parked at her house at any time?
No, Judge.
Okay. How did it come about that you took control over this car?
When the car was bought, it was to be brought to my house to fix for Kevin. And at the time, Judge, they were going to pay for it to be fixed. And Kevin had gotten hurt and come home. And Kevin asked me when he was home if I would keep the car at my house until he came back and fix what it needed, and when I get home, I'll pay you for it.
Okay.
So we had a windshield put in it. When you walk out my back door, it was sitting right there with a car cover on it. Then, Judge, when my ex-wife left...
Okay, so you separated.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
It's a long story behind it.
Let's put it simply. Ultimately wanted the car.
To give to her mom, because I wouldn't let her mom
Just a
have
second.
one.
In whose name was the car titled?
Mine.
Yours?
And my husband's.
So she said, I want the car. I'm going to give it to Mama.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I had told her prior to this that me and Sammy was going to fix the car. He told me, he said, if you'll pay for the parts, I'll do the labor, and when Kevin comes home, we'll give it to him. And, Judge, that's what I had in mind doing.
I don't care what you had in mind, sir.
She,
I don't care what you had in mind. I got the gist of it. You and her mother separated, and she said, I want the car to give to Mama.
Right.
I assume that's because her mother didn't have a car.
Right. And
okay, and you said no.
And not unless you pay me.
Okay, so now you want to be paid before Kevin came back from Afghanistan.
Well, if she was going to take it. Okay.
You had made an arrangement with Kevin that he would pay you for the parts when he came back from Afghanistan.
Yes, ma'am.
That was your contract.
Yes, ma'am.
So now you're changing the contract because now you want to get paid right away.
Well, the car was to stay there, Judge, till he came home.
No. It can go anywhere that the owner says it can go.
But he told me to keep it there until
But then you spoke to him again and he said to give it to her.
No, he called on the phone,
I said you spoke to him again and he said to give it to my wife.
If she pays.
No.
Yeah.
He said give it to my wife.
If she pays the labor to Sammy, not the parts, but just the labor.
Labor to Sammy has nothing to do with you.
Right.
What did you do with the car?
Well, a couple of days there, the car winded up. You could tell where it had tried to be broken into. Not for sure who done it. We took it and put it in storage.
Not we, you.
Well, me and my cousin. He had done the labor on it, Judge, and I'd paid for the parts.
Did you tell her where it was?
Yes, I told her I'd put it in storage, and when she paid us, she could get it. There was a labor lien against it. And she wanted proof of it, Judge, so I sent her proof of it.
Let me see what you mailed her.
And read, may I speak, Judge?
No, now it's her turn.
Okay.
Go ahead.
When they sent this letter, they did send the letter, but it was not sent until after the investigator had called and spoke with him about my car.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. I have the report. And
Can I see the report,
yes,
please? That's interesting, because you send her this ridiculous note that says, I have in my possession a Pontiac Firebird, and there is a $10 storage fee on it. And then you change the amount of repair bill. It looks like you put first it was $1,300, then it was $700. I don't know. Can't figure this out. And you say if you don't respond within 90 days, the car will be sold at public auction. Now this, I don't know what date this is, but she signed for it on May 23rd, because she allegedly sent this by certified mail. But she filed this incident report on the 16th of May, which is before you sent this letter to her. So the police contacted you. Put your hand down. Police contacted you and said, where's the car?
Probably.
Or they contacted Sammy.
No, they come out and contacted me.
Oh, there you go. And then you sent her this letter.
Judge, the officer, the day he came out, he wanted a copy of that letter. The day the officer come out and talked.
It's absolutely impossible, sir, because you dated this letter May 17th. That was the next day after the officer took this complaint.
Judge, he didn't come out the day he took the complaint.
I don't care whether he came out and took the complaint on that day or not. It doesn't make any difference, sir.
Okay.
What I'm telling you is, I got the whole story. You know what the whole story is? You were mad at your ex-wife.
Oh, yeah.
And you didn't want her to have a car. Don't shake your head no to me. You were angry, you didn't want her to have a car, and you had worked on this car, and when your daughter said, I'm going to give this car to Mama to use because you're not giving her a car, you said, over my dead body, because I was going to give it to Kevin, but I won't give it to the woman who I've lived with for the last, I don't know, how many years, 30 years?
24, Judge.
24, and raised a bunch of children with how many children?
4.
4 children. I'm not going to give it to her because I don't like her. I like this stranger, now husband of my child, and I'd give him for nothing, but I'm not giving it to my ex-wife, because who the hell does she think she is throwing me out?
You're right.
Well, that's too damn bad. You had no right. That's too bad, Mr. Tyler. Mr. Tyler.
She took it all and give it to a man one time. She ain't going to do it again.
Listen to me, Mr. Tyler. I don't know the reason, after 24 years and raising 4 children with somebody, that they say, I don't want to live with him anymore. I'm not going back over that. I don't know whether you were a good husband, whether you were not a good husband, whether you were a kind person to her, whether she was a kind person to you. I have no idea.
She's the one who left.
She may have had good reason. Let me tell you something about most women. And how old is your wife?
42.
Most women, if they have a loving mate, someone who cherishes them and cares for them,
Some of them appreciate it.
I'm speaking, and treat them well, they don't say, I'd rather go it alone. See, sometimes men do, because, you know, men will turn around and they'll say, well, I can find somebody who's 20. What do I need? This 42-year-old who's raised my 4 children. Now, your wife must not be a bad person, because her daughter says, I'm going to let you use this car if Daddy won't give you a car. So evidently, uncross your hands. Your wife may have taken your attitude for 24 years. I don't. What I'm telling you is you had no right to take that car and put it in a place where she couldn't find it. You didn't do it because you put a mechanic's lien on it. You did it because you were PO'd at your wife. And that you had no right to do. You had no right to exercise dominion and control over a car that did not belong to you. Now, your daughter, as far as I'm concerned, should not have gone to the police, should have tried to settle this matter civilly. But then again, you took your mother's side in this altercation. Yeah, you felt badly for her.
Somewhat, yes, ma'am.
You felt badly for her. So, in a family situation, should she have gone to the police? Probably not. Did she have a legal right to go to the police because you exercised dominion and control over her car? Absolutely. Don't say no. She did. And what they found when they found you not guilty wasn't because you weren't guilty of exercising control over the car, sir. What they said was, this is really a family matter, and we're not going to find you guilty of a criminal act, because what you were really doing was acting vindictive. And we're not going to get involved with that. So, sir, she had the legal right, put your hand down, she had a legal right to call the police to make a police report that she no longer had a car that was titled in her name and that you had.
Even though she had brought the car down there and told me to fix it.
Listen to me, sir. You can't trip over your own words. What you said to me 10 minutes ago was, it was your intention to fix the car. First, you said you were going to make a gift to Kevin when he came back from Afghanistan. Then you changed that and you said, well, I spoke to him and he said to me the parts when he came back from Afghanistan. She never told you she would pay you for anything, unless you're going to change your story again.
Judge,
right. You have no case, Mr. Tyler. Grow up. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Tara Dotson says her ex-boyfriend, Jesse Harrison, owes for kicking her truck. Jesse says Tara got him fired from his job.
Ms. Dotson, according to the complaint that I've read, the defendant used to be a boyfriend of yours. He is no longer a boyfriend of yours, but you claim that after you had already broken up, he vandalized your car on 2 separate occasions. Mr. Harrison says that he did no such thing. When did you end your relationship with him?
Approximately around July 15th of 2005.
How long had you been together?
Approximately about 1.5 years.
Did you ever live together?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
Approximately 1 year.
Did you live in your house or his house?
My home.
Who do you live with?
I live with myself and my children.
How old are your children?
I have a 9-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
When did he move out?
Probably around June of 2005. And
why?
It wasn't working. I had a lot of stuff going on in my life, and I felt like life was taking me in other directions, and I felt like I couldn't do all the things I needed to with him. He was becoming very controlling, very possessive.
Was he working when he moved in with you?
Yes, he was.
Did he remain employed during the year that he lived there?
No.
He did not?
He did not.
When did he lose his job?
Approximately 4 months after we lived together.
Were you working?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a full-time student at IUSB, and I also tutor at Jackson Middle School.
Okay. When was the first incident of your car being vandalized?
September 15th.
Tell me what happened.
That day I actually had surgery at St. Joe Medical Center, and after that, my friend Christine, she's right here, Her and I and Jesse Harrison, we all went to my friend Heather's house.
How did he get involved with you on that day if you had broken up 2 months before?
I called him from my home and I told him that I was having surgery that day and he asked the hospital. And I told him I didn't care, but I really, inside I felt like I needed him for support. He's been my main support person. And then when I was at the hospital and they were taking me to the pre-op, he showed up.
Did he drive you home?
No.
Who took you home?
Christine drove her car and she drove me and her to Heather's and he drove my truck. And when I left the hospital, I was upset that he was driving my truck. I did not want him to do that because he has no license. And when we got to Heather's house, we had this argument and he got mad at me because I didn't want him to drive the truck. And he said, well, I was there for you at the hospital. And I told him, you didn't have to be there for me at the hospital. I had somebody else who could have been.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Shh. Come back to you. Go ahead.
And at that point, he just yelled, and these were his words verbatim. He said, who, Petey? And then he kicked my truck and threw a flower pot at it. And then he ran between two houses, and that's when I saw an officer on a bike, and I stopped him, and he made a police report for me.
Okay. When was the next time that your car was vandalized?
The next accident was on the 16th of September, 2005.
Right.
Again, at that time, I was still under medication for my surgery. My doctor told me that I needed to do bed rest for a week. At that time, I went over to my friend Christine's house. Jesse was there, and...
How did he get there?
He drove me.
So you called him again?
I had to take my
Just
kids.
a second. So after you saw him kick your truck and throw a flower pot at it and report it to the police, you called him again to pick you up?
Your Honor.
Just a second. Is that what you're telling me? Don't give me an excuse. That's a yes.
Yes, ma'am.
When had you called him?
You know, I'm not...
That morning? The evening after? When?
I think it was the next morning.
Where were your children?
My children were at my friend Christine's house. I needed to take them some supplies, and I wasn't allowed to drive.
So you called him and said what?
I asked him if he could take me to take Christine some supplies.
And what did he say?
Yes.
You didn't say to him, I reported you to the police yesterday?
No, he knew. He saw the police while he was running.
No, it's not true.
He doesn't know how the police got there, madam. I'm asking you whether you told him that you had called the police the day before.
No, I did not tell him that I called the police the day before.
You just said, do me a favor, pick me up and take me over. How was he supposed to pick you up and take you over to Christine's house?
I asked him to take me in my truck.
You asked him to drive?
Yes.
So it was okay for him to drive without a license when you asked him to, but you were annoyed that he drove without a license the day before.
The day before, I did not feel comfortable being with him.
That's not my question. You told me a moment ago, madam, that the day before you had an argument with him because you didn't want him to drive your car because he didn't have a license. That's what you told me. But the next day, because you needed to use him for something else, you told him to come to your house, pick you up, use your car, and take you to your friend Christine's house.
That is correct. My children needed supplies.
They needed water?
Diapers.
Is she incapable?
She had 5 kids at her house at that time, and she couldn't leave.
License, diapers. License, diapers. You used him. Mr. Harrison, after you went back over there, her car was vandalized again, sir. Were you angry on both of those occasions?
No, I didn't. I wasn't angry. It's just that she was just running her mouth, or she wanted to go in the house, and I didn't want to stay there.
Why don't you work?
I was working for her brother, detailing cars at his car lot, until she came up there starting trouble, and now I just go from car lot time to time and detail cars.
Is that how you support yourself?
That's
Yes,
not
ma'am.
true.
What does he do?
Actually, he was working for my brother, and he got fired from my brother's car lot because he was being obsessive and controlling, and my brother didn't want to be a part of it. At this time, he doesn't go from car lot to car lot detailing. He
That's
frequently
not true.
sells stereos.
Ms. Dotson, although it looks to me as if butter would melt in your mouth and that you're a very intelligent woman, you're also a user. You used him like a rubber band. You say, get out, then come back, come to the hospital, I need your support, don't use my truck. Well, today you can't use my truck, tomorrow you can use my truck because I have to go someplace. And what I'm telling you is you can't toy with somebody's emotions like that. That's unacceptable behavior for an adult, madam. If you needed somebody additionally to give you moral support in the hospital and you had already kicked him out of your house, you don't call him again for the day.
Well, Your Honor, my mom is deceased. My best friend was watching my kids. Who else loves me? I know he does.
Just a second. Well, that's using him. That's exactly what I'm saying to you. That's exactly what I'm saying to you. He loves you, but you don't love him. So if what you're doing is toying with his emotions, because you're saying, I need you.
Your Honor,
Let's just listen. I need you. Now I'm finished with you. I need you again. Now I'm finished with you. That's cruel. And if what you're telling me is he loves you, and you know that, that makes you even the more cruel. You get me? What year is your truck?
My truck is in 1998.
And you have pictures of the damage that he did to your truck?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it, please. And your brother has a body repair shop?
No, actually, my brother has a car lot. He sells
car
used
lot.
cars.
Does he also repair cars?
No.
No. That's too bad. Well, I get some stuff there to detail it a little bit. And you could probably get that dent pulled out by somebody for a couple of $100. Nowhere near $1,700. You have to learn to be a nicer person, madam.
I understand, Your Honor.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff. Not for $1,700, for $300. Get your car fixed for that. That's all. Step out.
26-year-old Vanessa Gravenstein and 25-year-old Karina Irwin are suing their former friend, Brian Lewis, for embezzling money from an art collective.
Ms. Gravenstein, according to the complaint that I've read, you and the co-plaintiff met the defendant. You were interested in starting something called an art collective. And I assume what that means is a place where young people can show off their art. Is that right?
And also produce their art and be inspired by each other.
And what you did was you and the co-plaintiff were involved in setting up events to raise money to create this art collective. And the two of you worked together along with Mr. Lewis. You raised over $4,700 at these various events, something that Mr. Lewis does not deny. And you put it in the bank. And Mr. Lewis took the money and spent it. Mr. Lewis's defense is that it was always intended to be his money. That's your defense.
Essentially.
Well, Mr. Lewis, I want you to explain that to me, sir.
9 months ago, I was starting a venue to have
Starting a
venue space for concerts, art showings, and so forth. And over the course of about 9 months, I looked for a location to house that.
I thought you said 9 months ago you had a venue space.
No, 9 months ago we did not.
9 months ago, then you had nothing. You had an idea.
We had an idea.
Keep going.
And over those 9 months, I started a business called...
What was the business?
The business name was Is Village, and it was filed by the Secretary of the State of Oregon.
So now you had an idea that you gave a name to, and you filed a registration of the name. So far you have an idea and a name, and nothing else. Keep going.
I basically looked for individuals to help me create this venue space that was supposed to be owned by myself, and met with friends and other individuals, and they aided me in organizing different events.
Who aided you?
These two individuals and a rotating group of individuals that came in, came out.
Keep going.
We held events, generated money, and because the business belonged to me, it was put in my personal bank account and was my personal
Why was it
property.
put in your personal bank account?
Because the business was mine, I started the group, the money was essentially mine from the get-go.
No, that's not true. You're an embezzler. Absolutely. You brought a group of people together in order to create a dream that you inspired others to act upon. In order to do this Is Village. That's why they went to work for you, and that's why, according to you, the other people who you spoke to became involved in creating the events that brought in money, which would ultimately provide you with a venue. Now, what did you spend the money on, Mr. Lewis?
When I was no longer satisfied with the direction of the business that I started, I followed up on interests, business interests, friends of mine, a limousine.
So you spent the money on yourself?
I wouldn't say that, but...
Well, I would. They weren't investing in a limousine. That's not why they worked to create this, so that you could invest in a limousine? Outrageous. You're outrageous. I'm surprised you didn't notify the police. Did you?
We notified you instead.
Well, his conduct is outrageous, and you should have notified the police. He's an embezzler. And I wouldn't go into a business with you, Mr. Lewis. What you did is outrageous. The only problem is you're not entitled to this money. I mean, my problem is people supported you and gave money and contributed because they were looking forward to some place where they could show their wares. If I gave you this money and you used it on yourself, you're no better than he is.
Exactly. So we feel like we've learned from this situation, and we're going to get a new business and a new business name.
I want to see how much money you collected and how much you put in his bank. Do you have the records?
Yeah.
I'd like to see it, please.
Yeah.
Ever been arrested, Mr. Lewis?
No, ma'am.
How old are you?
21.
Better go back to business school.
Definitely considering it.
I want to see where the money went in.
The deposits are highlighted and circled, and then we wrote next to it which benefits that money came from.
Oh, that's fine. As soon as you get me the bank records, not these, the bank records. Do you understand? You mean you can't get them because they're in his name? I will sign an order for the bank to turn those over to you, unless he does. You prepared to turn those over?
More than happy to do it.
Fine. As soon as we get those, and you have a venue with a signed lease, the check will be made payable to that venue. Do you understand? That comports with the reason that not only you, but other people became involved in this vision. Is that reasonable?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Grow up, sir. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in jail. That's all.
Zenita Arnold and her husband, Lawrence Hill, are suing Zenita's ex-husband, Bruce Arnold, for filing false charges of abuse with Child Protective Services.
All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 105 on the calendar in the matter of Arnold Hill versus Arnold. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Miss Arnold, this is your former husband?
Yes.
And this is your?
New husband.
New husband. And according to your complaint, your former husband made allegations about you and your husband with regard to your treatment of your 2 children. You have 2 children with him?
Yes.
As a result of that, the 2 of you were briefly arrested and lost custody of the children for a very brief period of time. The children are back with you now.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold said he has every right to have been concerned about his children. He acknowledges he made the report that resulted in your arrest, and he is going to explain to me why. Now, when were you divorced, Miss Arnold?
August 16, 2004.
And how many children do you have, Mr. Arnold?
2, a boy.
Only
and a
2
girl.
children.
Yes, by her.
What are their dates of birth?
March 19th for my son, 99, and my daughter, September 4th, 19.
Did you and your former wife live together until 2004?
No.
When did you separate?
2002 or probably 1.
When did you separate?
2000.
Your former wife has had physical custody of the children since 2000. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Since one of the children was a year old, right? And one of the children was 5 years old.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Explain it to me.
My son was at least about 3 years old when we was living together.
Is that right?
Bruce has been on and on in the household. So it was basically 1 month he'll be in the household, the next month he will not.
That's a lot.
With duration of that, his appearance was basically an in-and-out father. I assumed full custody of my kids, sole custody, when I got the divorce, August 16, 2004.
Okay, now I got it. Now, sir, you made a report to Child Protective Services or to the police?
To the police.
When?
December 2006, I believe it was around the 15th or 16th.
Prior to December 2016, that's the date of your divorce, have you been regularly paying child support?
Yes, off and on.
Yes, off and on is not regularly paying child support. Since August 16th, have you been regularly paying child support?
I pay child support twice. I pay from the public aid and for our divorce.
I'm asking you, since August 16th, 2004, when the divorce granted you primary physical custody, have you been regularly paying support?
Yes.
Well, you said yes, and then 2 seconds ago you said yes off and on. Which one is it?
Because when I wasn't working, I was still giving her $50 a week, and they weren't taking out my check.
Is that right?
No. Basically, since like all of this happened December 16th, I'll say a minimum of about 2 payments that he has given me. This current year, up to date, I would say at the most, maybe a month worth of payments, and that's $50 every other month, if that.
Okay. Now, sir, you reported an incident to the police in December of 2006. You want to tell me what precipitated that report?
Yes, my children was home with my mother, their grandmother, and my daughter and her was talking, And my daughter came out and told her everything that was going on about the past and the present. And so my mother got on the phone, called me crying. She was saying that my kids are being abused.
Don't tell me what your mother said to you. I assume that there was a time that you came home and spoke to your children.
I was getting to that point, man.
I know, but you can't tell me what your mother said to you, sir, because that's hearsay.
I understand.
You can, however, tell me what your children... Listen to me. You're not paying attention, Mr. Arnold. You cannot tell me what your mother said to you. There is an exception with regard to what children say to their parents in family court proceedings, so I'm accepting what the children said to you. And I assume that as a result of the conversation with your mother, you had a conversation with your children.
Yes, ma'am.
When?
As soon as I got off the phone with her, I came home and I talked to my children. And that's when they informed me about the things that was going on.
Well, I would like you to tell me specifically what they informed you and which child informed you of
My
what.
daughter informed me that one occasion that Zanita had sat on top of her back while Lawrence whooped her. Then my son told me...
Okay, now, that's what your daughter said to you.
Yes, ma'am.
That her stepfather had hit her with what?
A belt.
Did she tell you when?
It was like a month prior to that date.
Are you making this up as you're going? Are you sure that she said to you it was a month before?
Yes, I am, ma'am.
Okay. And is that all your daughter told you?
No.
What else did she tell you?
She told me that she got a whooping because she didn't like what her mother had picked out for her for school, and she got in trouble for that.
Is that at the same occasion that you're talking to me about?
No, ma'am.
That was on a different occasion?
Yes.
And when did she say that happened?
Well, she didn't really say when that one happened. And then my son told me that he gets whoopings for no reason. So he told me about when they used to stay in Texas, that he showed me a burnt mark that he said Lawrence had burnt him with an iron. I said, did he do it on purpose or on accident? He said, no, Daddy, he did it on purpose.
When were you living in Texas? What year?
2003, 2004.
So that's 2003, 2004. So that your son was either 4 or 5 years old when you were in Texas. Okay. And what else did your son tell you?
He told me, well, actually, she told me one time that he had whooped him and hit him in his private part, and it swelled up so bad that she claimed they took him to the hospital.
And your former wife told you that?
And he's a witness to that.
Okay. So as a result of that, those are the reasons that you called the police?
It was all building up, the stuff that they telling me that I didn't know what was going on.
Okay.
Yes,
that's the reason why you called the police. Mr. Hill, I have a couple of questions for you, sir, and I would prefer answers from you so that I don't necessarily have to interview the children, who I understand are here, because I assume that they've already been examined and spoken to, so I would prefer that I get the legitimate answers from you. Mr. Hill, have you ever hit either of your stepchildren?
I have disciplined them with a belt in previous instances, yes.
How often?
Very infrequently.
More than 5 times since you've been their stepfather, or less than 5 times?
Less than 5 times.
More than twice or less than twice?
More than twice, less than 5.
And have you done that with the approval of Miss Arnold?
Yes.
Has Miss Arnold ever disciplined the children with a belt?
Yes.
These are hard questions.
That's right. I'm sorry, man.
You got a lot of nerves.
Miss Arnold, don't speak to him.
I'm sorry.
Don't speak to him. How often have you witnessed Miss Arnold disciplining her children with a belt?
I would say over the past 4 years, less than 5, more than twice.
Both the boy and the girl?
Yes. My daughter really doesn't get whoopings at all. We don't have
You mean your stepdaughter?
Yes.
How old was your stepson when you started to discipline him with a belt?
He was 4, almost 5 years old.
And do you remember the reason that you disciplined him with a belt?
No, not offhand. It was so long ago.
Well, try to tell me what infractions were that you remember that caused either the boy or the girl to be disciplined with a belt.
From what I remember is for lying.
Who was lying?
My son was lying.
What did he say?
I believe it had something to do with school. We hold school very important, so...
Do you remember, Miss Arnold?
Actually, this particular incident when he's talking about, it was dealing with school. We had a conversation with Michael regarding his grades and also just the upkeep of his schoolwork. We talked with him on numerous occasions about it. Our whoopings or our discipline methods are not what Bruce tends them out to be. When we do, at that point, when he did whoop him, it's more or less, we'll tell him to hold out his hand and whoop him 1 or 2 times at that point.
That's not true.
Okay.
Are you in the household?
Shh. Hey! Listen to me. Your lawsuit alleges that Mr. Arnold had no right to notify the police or Child Protective Services about what he perceived to be abuse and or neglect of his children. You believe that. And I'm telling you that he had every right to notify Child Protective Services and if notify the police who reported you to Child Protective Services in order to ascertain whether or not you were using excessive corporal punishment. He had not only the right, but he had the obligation to do that. You two look like very nice people. There is a difference between corporal punishment and excessive corporal punishment. I acknowledge that. That's a term of law because the law in this country doesn't say, although perhaps it should, that you cannot corporally punish your children by using a belt or a hanger or anything else. The law says that you cannot excessively punish your children. But as a parent, if my children came to me and said that their step-parent was with a belt, a 4-year-old,
Ma'am, it wasn't
I'm
a belt.
speaking.
It was an iron.
It was an iron.
He's stating,
That's what he's stating.
Listen to
That's
me.
why we got arrested
Listen to
because
me.
he said that we whooped
We
them
have
with a
the-
metal iron
the
and we
actual
burnt the
statements.
child.
Never said-
That was a lie.
No,
We have a
the
statement.
Listen to me
that.
listen to me. Hey,
Come on.
you're not paying attention to what I'm saying to you.
Yes, we are, yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but that's not the allegation. The allegation is a metal iron.
Listen to me. If your children were telling their father that they felt as if they were being disciplined harshly by you and their stepfather, and it is apparent to me that you do discipline them harshly. Now, whether in the jurisdiction that you live, that's permissible or not, that's not up to me to say. I assume that the courts permitted you to have your children
you
back.
asked Mr. Arnold, has he whooped his children either?
Listen to
Over
me.
The past
And you
couple
know
of
you
years?
have whooped those kids.
Why
You don't
should
need
you
to be.
advise
Why?
me?
Why? Because you whooped him.
Still ain't got yours for doing that to my son.
I ain't did nothing to your son.
I would like for you to talk to the kids.
Just a
Because
second.
that's what it's about. He made those kids lie.
Talk to the judge.
No, just a second.
I take care of
Hey!
Sir,
If you say
are
one
you
more
listening?
word, leave
Talk
it
to
down
the
there.
judge.
If you say one more word, I'm not even going to continue with the case. Do you understand, Miss Arnold?
Yes.
You have a temper problem. And my sense is if you have a temper problem here with me in a court situation where I am in authority and in control of my space, my sense is that if you have a temper problem, you can lose it with a 5-year-old. Do you get it? Now, try to keep your mouth shut. Do you understand until I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you get it?
Hey,
Stop
hey,
it.
hey.
Do you get it?
Yes.
I said to you, I'm going to ask you questions so that I won't have to interview the children if I don't have to, because the children have already been interviewed, I guarantee, by many professionals with the Child Protective Services and the police department. Put your hand down. I didn't have to interview the children because you told me, the two of you told me that you whip your children with belts. Now,
We no longer do that because we have actually had intervention prior before him making allegations.
Listen to me.
Yes,
listen
ma'am.
to me. Whether or not you've had intervention,
We
and
had counseling.
you had counseling.
Yes,
Hey,
and it was
just
proven that these charges
they were
came after
allegations.
the
I
fact.
dropped the charges.
just
He
a
should
second.
Be in jail.
Hey,
No.
I'm saying
You
the
should
same
be in
thing
jail for
to
not
you
paying
as I
child
said to
support. I
them.
raised your kids.
How come she get money from me every other week?
Your case is
Every other week,
dismissed.
don't pay for it.
Goodbye.
Daniel Holcomb says ex-girlfriend Allison Walters owes for a loan and for money he claims she stole. Allison says she was Daniel's mistress for 3 months.
Mr. Holcomb, you and Miss Waters dated for a period of time, and it is your claim that you made a loan to her when she was in some financial distress with her rent.
Yes.
And then subsequently, she took some money out of your wallet.
Yes.
Without your permission. The total of that is $800. Ms. Walters says that you were always generous, that there was never any... Stop tapping. There was never any intention to create a loan situation with regard to this rent money, and that you told her, ultimately, that she could have the $300 that she took out of your wallet. When were you and the defendant seeing each other, sir?
I would say late in the year, last year.
I didn't meet you till January.
January? Okay.
Yes.
So about that time.
Around January of 2005?
Mm-hmm.
And how long were you dating?
A few months, maybe till March or April.
It was only till March.
And that's incorrect because of the loan.
When
was
did
made
you make this $500 loan?
On April 1st.
Tell me about the conversation that you had.
I was at work and she called me saying that her rent's due, her check hasn't come from her boyfriend,
From her
Or not her
boyfriend?
boyfriend, but she has like a...
Baby's father.
Her baby's father, yeah.
You get child support from your child's father?
Yes.
For the child?
Yes.
How old is that child?
21 months.
Did you call him on April 1st indicating to him that you were short on rent money?
Yes, I did. And he had always given me money. Okay.
You called him and said what?
That I needed help paying my rent and if I could borrow some money or if he could lend me money because he had always given me money before.
And what did he say to you?
He said, of course.
And he wrote out a check?
Actually, he gave me cash.
How much cash did he give you?
$500. And I paid my rent.
Good. So why don't you pay him back?
Because then later on he told me that I didn't have to pay him back. And I thought because he would always give me money, as he placed an ad, who wants $300 to go for a date because he couldn't get a date, I thought that maybe I didn't need to pay him back.
Miss Walters?
Yes.
You just said to me that you called him up and said, could I borrow $500 from you?
Yes.
And he said yes.
Yes, and then I couldn't pay him back when he wanted me to pay him back. And
Just a sec. Okay. Why couldn't you pay him back?
Well, I offered to pay him back, and he told me I didn't have to.
So when did you offer to pay him back?
Probably in May.
What did he say when you offered him the money?
He told me I didn't have to pay him back.
Tell me where you were.
At my house.
What time of the day or evening?
It must have been the middle of the day because he was at work.
So you called him on the phone?
I think I emailed him.
Well, try to think.
I emailed him because that's
And
how
what
I
did you say
communicated
in
with
the
him mostly.
email?
I told him that I was short on rent and that I should...
No. I'm talking about when you were going to pay him back. You said you had the money.
Oh, I told him that I had the money, that I finally got in the check and that I could pay him back.
So you emailed him again?
Yes.
Did he? And what did he say when you emailed him at work and said, I now have the $500?
He told me okay, and then he never came to get it, and I was like, when are you going to come get it? And we weren't talking really at this point anymore. And then eventually I was like, okay, and he never paid it back. I mean, I never paid it back.
Did you think this was going to be easy, this double talk?
No.
Where did he say to you in all of this baloney that you just gave me, madam, you don't have to pay it back?
I have emails probably somewhere saved that I didn't have to pay him back.
Well, did you think that you were coming here today to a cotillion?
No.
If you have emails from him that you say you have saved, saying that you don't have to pay him back, where were you saving them? What were you saving them for? You were going to line a hope chest with them? No. This is where you're supposed to bring them, Miss Walters.
I don't have an actual computer. I use my phone. It has a computer in it. So I couldn't print them out or anything like that.
Does the father of your child visit with him?
Yes.
What does he do?
He's a catering manager.
Well, maybe between the two of you, the child has a chance.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so she owes you $500 for rent, Mr. Holcomb.
Yes.
Now let's get to the other $300. Could you tell me how that came about?
Well,
what do you do for a living, by the way?
Oh, I'm a computer programmer.
What did you have to talk to her about?
In general?
In anything. Did you talk about anything?
Yeah. Okay. We had a relationship.
He cheated on his wife for 3 months. That's what he did.
That's a possibility, Miss Walters. I just wanted to know if he had a conversation with you about anything.
Yeah.
All right. Let me hear the $300, Mr. Holcomb.
Okay, so after the rent situation, I wanted to get back the money. So I stayed friends with her, hoping to get the money back. And I told her, it's for the allowance for our household. And she understood that, and she was going to give it back to me. But I had to, walk around with kid gloves, you know what I'm saying? Because otherwise she would be, temperamental and say...
Temperamental.
Well, she would just kind of give me that impression.
Get to the $300, sir.
Okay, so we went to Black Angus, and we had dinner that night, and we had a few drinks. We went to my car. I put my wallet in the crevice right below the stereo, and then I started my car, and then she grabbed her wallet. And I grabbed it too, because her personality, right? So we're tugging, and she's pretty strong. I mean, she grabbed that wallet, pulled it to her, away from me, and she looked aside, and she saw $500. Well, she threw the wallet back at me, stuffed the $500 down her shirt, and I said, you better give that back to me. I was arguing with her, and she was being teasing and laughing and stuff, and she also had a few drinks, so she was kind of out of it in a sense. And I was like, come on, that's my money. I gave her reasons, family, all that.
What family, Mr. Holcomb? My wife and children? How many children do you have, sir?
4.
Were you living at home at the time?
Yes.
Are you living at home now?
Right now, I'm not at home, no.
Where are you living now?
Here in Burbank.
Alone?
No, actually with my father.
That's what he told me in the first place.
When did you leave home?
Well, we bought a house in Montana, and we just settled in at the end of this month, last month, and I've been here for about 2 weeks now, and my wife and family are in Montana.
And they intend to stay there?
Mm-hmm.
And you intend to stay here?
I'm not sure yet.
If your wife is smart, she'll stay in Montana.
Yeah.
All right. So she gave you back $200 of the $500 that she stuffed in her blouse?
Yeah, it was a big argument, and she finally threw money at me.
When you drove her home that night, where did you go?
Down
My
to
house.
her studio apartment in Van Nuys.
Did you sleep over?
No.
No.
Have you been back to her apartment since?
Yes.
When?
We still were hanging out.
What does that mean, you're still hanging out?
We were still friends. After I found out he was married and everything that was a lie, I still wanted to be his friend because he wasn't allowed to have any friends. So, and he got along with my kid, and he was really nice. He helped me out, and when I needed help, he bought me a refrigerator, he bought me a camera, he bought me a bunch of stuff, he helped me with bills. He's probably given me, I don't know, $3,000 in total, but he's suing me for this $800.
Why do you think that is?
Because his wife found out.
So?
So she got mad. So he's suing me for what she found out about.
Miss Walters, do you think that Mr. Holcomb's wife would want him to sue you on a television program that is viewed by 10 million people in order to get back a fraction of the amount of money over the course of the few months that you dated?
I've only talked to her on the phone once, but the way he talks about her, probably. She doesn't seem that bright.
She doesn't seem that bright.
No.
Out of the frying pan. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $800. Give him back his money, Miss Walters. That's all.
25-year-old Katrina Purdy is suing her former employers, taxi company owners Jack and Mike Pulowski, for taxi cab rent and lost wages.
Yeah, this is case number 299 on the calendar in the matter of Purdy versus Pulowski. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
You own a cab company?
Yes.
For how long?
For 3 years.
How many cabs do you have?
About 8.
You own them?
Yes.
And I gather what you do is you lease those cabs out on a weekly basis to people who want to drive them. They give you part of the money, and that's how you make your living, and that's how the drivers make their living.
Yes.
Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay. How much do you charge per week to lease one of your cabs?
It's $400.
And how much of what the cab driver earns do you keep? What percentage?
I don't keep any percent, just $400 a week. And
flat. And
flat,
they can
exactly.
drive the cab as much as they want.
Correct.
They can go 24/7 if they want to, as long as they can keep awake.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
And they pay for and you pay for the maintenance, etc., on the cab.
Yes.
Do you get the same cab each time?
Yes, they keep the car, the same car
keep
all
it?
the time.
Okay. When did Miss Purdy begin to lease her cab from you?
That was on July.
Give me the exact date, sir.
I can't remember exact day. That was...
Well, you should have records. Don't you have a business? You have records, you have a business. So when, for the first time, did Miss Purdy lease a cab from you?
It was about July 15th.
Is that the same kind of about 8 cabs? Or was it July 15th?
July 15th.
Is that correct?
Yeah, I have July 22nd, Your Honor.
You have July 22nd was the first time that you rented a cab?
Yes.
Let me see your records to show me July 15th.
I didn't bring any records about that.
Well, where'd you think you were coming today? To a tea dance?
No.
July 22nd was the first time you leased the cab?
Yes.
You gave him $400?
Yes, I did.
For how many weeks did you lease the cab?
I leased it for 3 weeks.
Okay. And was July 22nd a Monday?
That was a Friday, Your Honor.
When did you pay him the $400? Each Friday?
Every Friday, yes.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, that's correct.
And the Friday was for the following week, is that right?
Yes.
So you were paid $400 on a Friday, and she was supposed to keep it the following week. However, Miss Purdy says that when she paid you the last $400, which is on what date?
August 13th, Your Honor.
You told her that she couldn't keep the cab. Is that right?
No, that's not right.
So you let her keep the cab that week?
No, because I fired her that day.
Well, when you fired her, did you tell her she couldn't keep the cab?
Yes.
Well, that's what I just said. What are
But
you
that
saying no for?
$400 wasn't for the following week.
Well, that's what you just said. You said the Friday you got paid, and you allowed them to keep the cab for the following week.
That $400 was exchanged for her check, which she gave me for a security deposit.
Explain that to me, sir. She gave you a check for security
yes,
deposit.
first,
Hold
when
on
she
a second.
started working.
She gave you a check for security deposit. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you held on to the check?
First, I get the check. I tried to cash it and it was bad check. So I just gave her the check back and I took $400 instead. It was exactly the same amount of $400.
See, this is all a question of timing, Miss Purdy.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand?
Yes.
What I gather happened is, now it's all coming together, Bird. Trust me, I'm going to explain this to you because I know if you understand that I've made myself clear, and I like to make myself clear. Miss Purdy gave him a total of $1,200. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
She only had the cab for 2 weeks. Is that right?
It was 3 weeks.
You used the cab for 3 weeks?
Yes.
Well, if you used the cab for 3 weeks and you gave him $1,200, what are you complaining about?
The $400 was for deposit for a hold on the check.
No. What I'm asking you, Miss Purdy, is as follows. You say you gave him $1,200.
I gave him $400 every week.
You say you gave him a total of $1,200. All the money that you gave him, for whatever reason, was $1,200.
Well, then that doesn't include the $400. You're right.
Okay, so you gave him $1,600.
Yes, Your Honor.
You gave him $1,600, but you only used the cab for 3 weeks.
Yes, Your Honor.
Got it?
I got it.
The last Friday that she leased the cab, she hands him cash, $400. You take the $400, correct?
Yes, correct.
And then you say to her, you're fired.
No, but
Shh, just a second.
Okay.
You're fired, and I'm keeping this $400 for the security deposit check because you scratched the car. You damaged the car, which is what the security deposit was for. Is that right, sir?
That's right.
Right. That's simple. Don't shake your head no. That's what happened. Because if he had said to her, you were doing the talking, or was he doing the talking?
But I gave
Who
her
was
the
doing
check
the
back.
talking?
We were together.
Who was talking to her?
I was talking, he was talking.
All I want to know is, before she handed you the $400, did you say to her, we're firing you today?
No,
Of course not. So you got the cash first.
because I didn't trust her with the check.
Are you following me, sir? You took her $400 because you were afraid that if you told her she was fired, she wouldn't give you the $400.
No, that's not the reason. I was afraid that the check is bad, like the first one.
Just a second. She didn't give you a check. She was giving you cash.
Yes, but she gave me check first.
I
Because she didn't
understand.
have any money,
Listen.
so she gave me a check.
Listen to me, sir. If you would have said to her, I'm firing you today, you owe me money for scratching the car. I don't know how much that's going to be yet, but you owe me money. We'll have to straighten that out. Do you think she would have given you the $400?
Probably not.
Right. And she was not giving you the $400 for the security deposit. She wasn't. Her intention was giving you the $400 to use the cab for the next week, correct?
Yes.
Of course. Your intention was to take the $400 to hold it so that in case you had damage to the car, which you claim you had, you would have money to fix it. Correct?
But remember about the check. I gave her back $400 in check.
Listen
That was
to me
just
carefully, sir. Don't play slick with me. I know that what you've got fixed in your own mind is you decided to take that moment, August 13th, that's the day you selected to take the money for the bad check. Not the week before, not in the middle of the following week. You said, this is the time I'm going to take the money for the bad check, right?
Yes.
And I'm telling you, you can't do that.
Just
Anything you want to say to me?
me?
You.
No, I'm just a witness. I'm supposed
You're
to
a witness to what?
to her accident.
She had an accident with the car. This is not the issue. The issue is who's going to be a plaintiff and who's going to be a defendant. He has every right to fire her. What he did was play it slick. What he did was she said, I want to lease the cab for the next week. Here's my $400. He didn't say to her, no, I'm sorry, we're not leasing. Put your hand down. We're not leasing you this cab for another week because we don't like the way you drive. We don't like the way you take care of our property. We're firing you. But we have your bad check here. And you have to make good on the damage that you did to our car because that's our contract. And she says, sue me. That way, he would stand over here and she would stand over here. Instead, he resorted to self-help. He says, I'm going to be slick. I'm going to take her money. I'm going to be very quiet. I'm not telling her we're firing her today. I'm going to take her money, and then she's going to have to come after me for the money. Do we understand each other?
Well, she never said she had an accident, but I saw her have an accident.
I don't care whether she had an accident. I don't care if she ended up with a pole up the tailpipe of a car. Listen to me, sir. All I'm saying is they have a choice. Their choice is to pursue her for the money that they outlaid to fix the car, or they can play it slick by taking her $400 and saying, now you're fired, now I have the money. You follow me?
I hear everything.
You understand it?
I understand it.
Slick doesn't understand it either. They can either be a plaintiff.
I would have fired her. I would have fired her.
They had every right to fire her. You're not hearing it.
I'm hearing it.
No, you're not hearing it. They had every right to fire her as soon as she had an accident. Before I'm speaking, do you hear my mouth moving?
I see it.
Good. They had every right to fire her. They were derelict if they didn't fire her, if they have a cab company and she had an accident. What I'm saying is they had no right.
There was a lot more than an accident. There was a lot more.
Do you?
Excuse me.
Is there something wrong with you?
Is there something wrong with me?
Yes. Are you just try paying attention? They had every right and an obligation to fire her.
That's what I would have done.
They had no right to take her $400 on the day that they intended to fire her, because her intention in giving them the $400 was to allow her to use the cab for the following week. And they took that money under false pretenses. Do you understand? Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $400. That's all.
20-year-old Catherine Gonzalez is suing her ex-boyfriend, 20-year-old exterminator Zachary Finney, for breaking their apartment lease and for a loan to have his teeth fixed.
So you two people, when you were under 20, decided to take up housekeeping together, according to what I read in your complaint, and you leased an apartment. At the time you leased this apartment together, were you working?
Yes, I was working.
And how much did you earn a week?
I got $9 an hour. I'd get like about $400 or $500 every 2 weeks.
Well, is it $400 every 2 weeks or $500 every 2 weeks?
The months differed, but I know in December when we moved in, I made $1,083.10 in December.
In December. Did you work overtime for Christmas during that time?
I worked a little bit more hours, but...
Okay. So let's say you made $500 every 2 weeks.
Yes.
Okay? And you, what kind of work were you doing?
I was a mover, and I made about, say, $350 every week.
So you made about $1,400.
Yes, ma'am.
A month. And what kind of an apartment did you rent?
A one-bedroom.
How much was the rent?
$530.
When did you sign the lease?
We signed it in November, but it began December 1st, 2004.
And it was a 6-month lease?
It was a 1-year lease.
How long did you live there?
I lived there until June.
So you lived there for 6 months?
Yes.
And then you moved out?
Yes.
How long did you live there?
I lived there until September 30th of this year.
So you stayed on an extra 3 months?
I'd say almost 4.
Did you pay the rent for the 4 months that you lived there?
Yes.
They're coming after you for the 2 months rent that remains on the lease after he moved out?
Yes, 2 months. He didn't pay rent.
You want him to pay those 2 months?
Yes. And also, he had porcelain veneers put on before we moved into the apartment even. And he promised he would pay me back for those when we went to Mexico to get his porcelain veneers.
How long ago was that?
That was last fall. So
a year ago?
Yes, a year ago.
Forget about it. I'm not interested in something that happened a year ago. Then you moved in together, you pulled money. Okay. Did you have a joint bank account?
Yes.
Or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Get over it, Ms. Gonzalez. Okay. Now, why do you think that he should be responsible solely for the last 2 months' rent? You moved out in June.
He promised me he would stay there until the lease was over. I told him, he didn't want to live with his parents. I said, you don't have to worry. I won't ever make you live back with your parents. As long as you stay there, you can stay there. I trust you. And he promised that he would stay there until the lease was up.
Well, didn't you promise him you were going to stay there until the lease was up when you signed the lease with him?
Yes, but until he asked me to leave, then...
He asked you to leave, why?
There was a lot of reasons. I could have left before. I stayed there to help him pay rent, and really that was the only thing I was staying for towards the end. And the moment he told me that I could leave, I was happy. He said, please leave, and I said, okay.
Because he was making everybody's life miserable.
Yes. He was...
Well, but I still don't get your position that it was okay for you to leave and stick him with the rent, but it's not okay for him to leave and stick you with the rent, or at least half of it.
I would have stayed there, but he told me that I could leave.
Miss Gonzalez, stop being a baby. 2 20-year-olds, if they're not getting along, don't stay with each other. That's why police come to houses, because people get hot-tempered and nasty stuff that goes on in people's homes when they're not getting along. So you left.
Yeah.
And he paid the rent.
Yeah, he paid the rent.
So
So, and he should have continued to pay it until December. Also, he
You
signed...
should have continued to pay it after you left in June. Where did you go?
I went to live with my dad. And
well, if you went to live with your dad, then you had plenty of money. You should have given him
no,
half
I
the
did not
rent.
have plenty of money. I had bills.
Listen to me. You should have given him half the rent. Said, I'm leaving. Too bad it didn't work out. We shouldn't live together. I'll give you half the rent.
I have a piece of paper, though, that says he owes me $800 per month for rent and expenses, regardless of whether we're living. It doesn't say not if Zach doesn't live there. It doesn't say any conditions on it. And so that was my guarantee that he would stay there and pay the rent, because he signed a piece of paper saying that he would.
Let me see it. I, Zachary Finney, will give $800 a month for rent or other reasons to Catherine Gonzalez for a period of 1 year from December 1st, 04 to December 1st, 05. What does that mean, sir?
To get the apartment that we moved into, I had a lease that I had prior to living there with my roommates. I had an apartment with them. I moved out, and my other roommate was supposed to take that over. He left, and that went on my credit, so I couldn't get approved. The reason I did that is the apartments asked me to do it so we could get approved to move in there. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to move in there.
So this wasn't for her.
It was to get us approved to live there.
Is that right? Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
All right, give this back to her. All right, now why are they just going after you for the last 2 months of this rent, Miss Gonzalez?
Because my name was on the lease.
So he's not even liable on the lease?
No, but this piece of paper was my guarantee that he would not...
That wasn't your guarantee. That's not the reason it was signed. So the rent is $530 a month?
Yes.
Did you give them notice you were moving out, sir?
No, I did not.
Why not?
I've been paying the rent ever since she moved out. It's September. We had a hurricane hit Louisiana, Katrina, and a hurricane that was going to hit Houston, Rita. Well, I'm an exterminator, and my customers started canceling, and I work off commission. If I don't work, I don't get paid. And I was out of work probably almost 2 weeks, I would say. I asked her for help, and she kept giving me a runaround about why she couldn't help me, so I just left. I wasn't going to stay there.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
Okay.
Well, in any event, you did have an agreement, and your agreement was each of you would pay half the rent. Is that your agreement when you moved in? And if there were 2 months left remaining on the lease, that means that each of you would be responsible for $530. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, you think it's fair, Mr. Finney, that you pay $530?
No, I don't.
Well, it is. It is, sir. You paid for the 4 months rent in the apartment, but you lived in the apartment for 4 months.
Yes.
And from what I gather from Miss Gonzalez, it was by mutual understanding that you left. She wasn't happy there. You weren't happy with her there. She was more than happy to leave. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, I think it's reasonable that each of you is responsible for the last 2 months that remain on this lease. The next time you decide to set up housekeeping with somebody, you better make sure it's somebody that's going to either stick it out with you, or if they're not going to stick it out with you, then you can afford to pay the rent by yourself. Do you understand?
Yes.
It's not his responsibility to pay this entire amount, nor is it yours. Anyway, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $530. That's all.
20-year-old Tyler Gray is suing his ex-girlfriend, 18-year-old Shalia Slayton, and her mother, Tram, for a loan to buy a car and a loan to take a vacation.
Mr. Gray, Miss Slayton is your former girlfriend.
Right.
And this is what your complaint alleges. It alleges that several months ago, you loaned her $1,000 to put as a down payment on a car. She was supposed to make the payments on the car. You were the co-signer on the car loan. She didn't make the payments, and you repossessed the car. According to what I read, you said you sold the car. Did you sell the car, or did you give the car to your mother?
My mother took over the car payments.
And how much after the car was purchased did your mother take over the car payments? How many months?
About 2.
Oh. And then you allege that the defendant went on a vacation. She was your girlfriend. She notified you on the vacation that she was short of some money and asked you if you could put some cash in a joint checking account that you had.
Right.
And you put $300 in the joint checking account because that's what you do.
Right.
And when she came back from vacation, she broke up with you. That's what you say, right?
Yes, we broke up after I got back.
No, your answer says that after you came back from vacation, you broke up with him, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So let's take care of the car first. Forget about the car. You gave the car to your mother. She used the car maybe 2 months. Car's your problem. Got it?
No, actually, she...
No, now you believe, trust me. I want you to trust me. I want you to trust me. That's it. Because if you had sold the car to a stranger at an arm's length transaction, and if there was a shortfall on what you were owed, I might listen to you. The fact that your mother took over the payments, that's not what we call an arm's length transaction. Say nothing. You're driving the car?
Yes.
That's it. The car is yours. You just bought a car for your mother. And if she's going to make the payments, that's $300. Now, when did you go on this vacation?
I went July 15th through the 18th, I believe.
And where did you go?
I went to Newport Beach to visit my sister as a graduation present.
And when did you call him for the $300?
Probably that Saturday I was there.
Well, you went there on the 15th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and you came
Yeah,
back on the
probably
18th.
yeah, the second day I was there, I called him.
And when did you break up with him?
The night I came back, we actually ended up breaking up.
You broke up with him?
Yeah.
Tell me why.
We broke up because this was now a new chapter in my life. I just graduated from high school. I was starting college soon, and I wanted to focus on what I needed to do.
When did you come to this revelation? On the 15th, 16th, 17th, or 18th? Don't speak to her. When did you come to this revelation?
I had been thinking about it prior to leaving, and when
And why did you call him and ask him for money?
Well, because we had a joint account, and whenever he needed money, I would give him the money.
Well, that's because there was goodwill between you. You think that if you had called him up on the 16th and said to him, what's your first name?
Tyler.
Tyler. Tyler, when I get back, I'm going to break up with you, but right now I'm visiting with my sister and I need $300. You think he would have put $300? Listen to me. You see how you just laughed? You see you just laughed? Just want you to think about that. If you had called him up on the 16th and said, Tyler, I've been thinking about our relationship. I want to move on. I need a new chapter in my life, but I'm down here with my sister. We're having a good time. I need $300. I'm short. Could you put $300 in our account? You think he would have done it?
Probably not.
Right. So you owe $300 because you weren't being honest with him. And the fact that you had a joint account where you each put money during the course of your relationship when you had a trusting, mutual relationship with him, that's one thing. But that was pretty sneaky. To break up with him the day you... Don't poke her! It was pretty sneaky calling him and breaking up with him 2 days later. How do you think he felt? He felt like an idiot. Felt like an idiot. This wasn't some revelation. Been thinking about it for a while.
Well, this account was actually my account, and he couldn't get an account of his own, so I put him on as my account so that he could deposit his paychecks into there.
Yeah.
But towards the end of our relationship, he didn't have a job, and he was spending my money.
So this was a way of getting money back?
It wasn't getting back at him or anything like that.
Sure it was. Sure it was. You figure you would cut your losses. What you did was not right. So far on his claim, he gets Zippo for the car, $300 that you had him put in while you were on vacation getting ready to dump him. Now, getting back to your counterclaim. Say nothing. I'm not interested. Do you understand? Let's get to your counterclaim. You say he overdrew your checking account by $700.
Yeah.
When did he do that?
While I was in Newport.
Show me. Did you overdraw her checking account, sir?
No.
All of the ones highlighted are the transaction his card made.
I don't even think we had 700.
No, highlighted. You have something here on 720 and 721. That's not when you were in Newport. Did you take money out of this account, sir?
I didn't take $700 out of the account.
No,
we didn't
100
have $700 in our account.
No. There was 100 taken out on 719 and again on 719. You took out $300. So right after she broke up with you, you withdrew $300 from the account. Is that right?
No.
Take a look at 719. $719, your account.
719, withdraw $100. Okay?
And then there's another 719.
200. You're correct.
I'm always correct.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me. This was your joint money. Up until the point when you're no longer a couple. And I can understand you going in and saying, I'm not going to let her make a fool out of me and take my $300 when she knew she was going to break $300. No. Your mother's driving around in the other $1,000.
She purchased the car with the full amount that we bought it. She never made a car payment on the car.
Listen to me. Arm's length transaction. I tried to explain that to you. If you don't understand it, go to a lawyer They'll explain it to you better. I don't have the time to educate you. If you sold the car to a stranger, I would hear you. You gave the car to your mother. I don't want to hear it. You took your $300 back after she broke up with you, so you get no $300. Don't put anybody else on your checking account, madam. He put in $300. He took out his $300, so you don't owe him any money, and he doesn't owe you any money. Go, have a happy life. Goodbye, good luck, have a nice day.
Parties are excused when they step out.
Alice Ramos is suing neighbor D'Angelo Trent for damages to her car. Alice says D'Angelo's son, 9-year-old D'Angelo Jr., crashed into her vehicle with his bike.
Mrs. Ramos, it is your complaint that this little boy right over here was on his bicycle, fell off of his bicycle, and scratched your car. You want his father to pay for the scratch on the car. Is that right? And Mr. Trent's chance. When did this happen?
June 19th of 2004.
Were you at home at the time?
Yes, it was a Saturday. We had had a yard sale at my residence, and this child here had been riding his bicycle the better part of the day, up and down.
What's your name?
D'Angelo Trent Jr.
D'Angelo?
Yes.
Did you know him before?
I've seen him in the
19th?
neighborhood, but I didn't know whose child he was.
But you had seen him before?
Oh, yes.
For how long?
He's lived in our neighborhood as long as I can recall.
So you know him. This isn't
Right.
a child who you hadn't seen 100 times before.
Oh, definitely.
Alice Ramos says neighbor 9-year-old D'Angelo Trent Jr. damaged her car when he crashed his bicycle. D'Angelo's father, D'Angelo Sr., claims his son doesn't own a bike.
So what did you see when he fell off the bike?
He bumped into the bumper of my car, and he fell off his bicycle. At that point, I was not concerned about my car. Myself, my nephew Andrew, and my niece all ran out to the street to see if he was okay. He seemed okay, but he fell awfully hard for how quickly he jumped back up.
And subsequently you found a scratch on your car?
When we first checked, we saw what looked like rubber scraping on the bumper of the car. And I told the little boy, before he took off, I told him, that's okay, this can be buffed out, you can go. So he jumped on his bike and he took off, more scared than hurt, I think. And 10 minutes later, he comes back with another young man on the handlebars. And he and his friend got off, and he started to show the friend what he had done. Well, unbeknownst to us, we were more concerned in the beginning about his welfare. We didn't really inspect the car. I saw the rubber scrapes on the bumper. But he's showing him another area of the car which we had not seen. And there is a scrape on the trunk.
You have a picture of it?
No, I don't.
Why don't you have a picture of it?
As I go on to the story, you'll see why.
Okay.
There was a good gash to where the whole paint and primer, everything came off right down to the metal. And it was right at the height about where the handlebars are.
So what did you do next?
I said, did you do this with your bike? And he said, he nodded his head yes. I said, well, then you can't leave. I need to talk to you. He looked at me wide-eyed, scared, started to cry, jumped back on his bike, and took off, and left his little friend there. I asked his friend, do you know who this little boy is? I've seen him in the neighborhood many times, but I don't know who he is. And he says, yes, that's D'Angelo's son. And I said, D'Angelo, I know D'Angelo. I've known D'Angelo the father since he was knee-high to a grasshopper, since he grew up in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So I said, can you take me to his house? So he walked.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit. Ms. Ramos, did Mr. D'Angelo say that he would take care of the problem?
Absolutely.
And that's why you had it fixed and you didn't take a picture? I'm just running ahead because that sounds like what you're going to tell me.
I didn't take a picture because I had to call the police because we could not locate him, the father.
Why?
Because there was no one at the house. The house was all opened up, windows, doors, everything was opened up at the house. There was nobody there.
Okay, so when the police came, he said he would fix...
He told the police officers he would take care of it between me and him.
Okay, stop. And you had it fixed. How much did it cost you to have it fixed?
$300.
You have a receipt?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. You weren't there.
I wasn't there.
He was there.
He was there.
How long have you known Mrs. Ramos?
22 years.
She a nice lady?
Nice lady.
Seems like a lovely lady.
Yeah.
Seems like a caring lady. Is concerned about your son?
Right.
More concerned about your son than her car?
Right.
Why don't you pay her the $300?
Because my son doesn't own a bike. He was on the peg.
He was riding a bike that day. Now, Mr. Trent, you seem like an intelligent man, sir.
I am.
If you had to make a choice as to whether Mrs. Ramos or your 9-year-old son was telling you the truth, who would you pick? Who would you pick, sir? I haven't even spoken to him. I know who I would pick.
I know the child that was riding the bike, and I know he's nowhere in court. So I don't know why my son's here.
You weren't there. Mrs. Ramos, who you've known for 22 years,
right,
says that your son was the one who was riding the bike. You weren't home. So I'm going to go back to my original question. If you had to make a choice as to whether your 9-year-old son, D'Angelo, was telling the truth, or Mrs. Ramos was telling the truth, who would you pick?
I would pick my son, of course.
Well, then you would pick wrong. Your son, and you weren't there, was riding the bike. Look at me, D'Angelo. Isn't that right?
No.
Baloney.
Judge, when you ask her if there were 2 people there was a person riding and he was on the pegs.
No.
Please ask her.
She said he was riding the bike. Is that what you told me?
That's right.
Was there 2 children there?
No. When the incident happened, there was only 1 child on the bike.
When he came back, she said there were 2 people. He was riding, and there was another child on the handlebars. And then when she went out there and confronted them, he got scared and left the other kid there. And if he's not telling you that story,
the other child
I take him out to the barn. Judgment to the plaintiff in the amount of $300. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Nathan Heater says ex-girlfriend Rebecca Titus had him falsely arrested for physically abusing her. Rebecca claims he kicked her in the stomach during her pregnancy.
Mr. Heater, the defendant used to be your girlfriend.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, she had you falsely arrested for domestic violence.
Correct.
Ms. Titus says that she did call the police. She had you arrested for domestic violence, and that's because you hit her. Correct?
Yes.
This incident happened on what date?
July 28th.
Now, Ms. Titus, I am correct that at one point in your relationship, you found yourself pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And you told Mr. Heater that he was the father of this baby and that you miscarried. Is that what happened? But it turned out that he was not the father of this child.
It could have not been his.
Right. And then you renewed your relationship again briefly. But that's all it takes, Mr. Heater. A brief moment of stupidity, and Miss Titus told you she was pregnant again. And according to you, you said, listen, I didn't know about last time, I don't know about this time. I don't want to have anything to do with this baby until I take a paternity test.
Actually, what I told her was that I would help her out as long as I would be repaid if the baby was not mine.
You didn't discuss that with me first. I would have told you that that was a very bad idea. However, on the evening of the 28th of July, according to you, and according to Miss Titus, she called you and wanted to come over to talk.
Actually, he called me.
Yes.
What did you call her for?
I thought that she had a doctor's appointment regarding the baby the previous day, and I just called to see how it went.
And what did Miss Titus tell you?
She said that I was wrong about the date, that I believe it was the next day, and that she would like to come over and speak to me. And I said, I don't think that's a good idea. We speak face-to-face, that we should speak over the phone. And she said that she didn't want to speak over the phone.
So Mr. Heater told you not to come over.
Well,
you
no.
acknowledge that. He said he didn't want to talk to you in person.
He said that he didn't want to talk to me, but eventually said that it was okay for me to come over.
Did you tell her it was okay to
No,
come
I
over?
did not.
No, I don't believe that. It's not what you say in your answer, and I don't believe that. He said he didn't want to talk to you in person. He thought you should discuss whatever you had to discuss over the phone. But you went over there anyway. What time did you go over there?
About 12:30 in the afternoon.
What did you want to discuss with him?
I wanted to talk to him about the baby and about how things were going between us. We were, before this, we were going out and doing things together, and like...
Don't you people know anything about birth control?
Yes, they don't work for me.
They don't work for you?
Yes. My body rejects them.
There are all kinds of birth control, Ms. Titus.
Yes, ma'am.
The answer to having a problem with one form of birth control is not to have babies with people who don't want to have children with you, like Mr. Heater or anybody else. So you went over there about 12:30.
I knocked at the door, and he told me to come in, and I upset him. And
how did you upset him?
I don't remember exactly what I said.
Maybe you
to
do.
him.
If you don't remember, maybe he does. What happened, Mr.
I
Heater?
was upset before she came into the house because I told her not to.
Come over.
And she started screaming through my door at me.
What was she saying?
You have to live up to your responsibilities. You can't create a situation and then not take care of it.
That doesn't sound welcoming, Miss Titus.
That never happened at all.
Go ahead.
So, to save myself from embarrassment from my neighbors, and I did open the door for her to try to...
So you let her in?
Yeah.
And what happened when she came inside?
It just continued on the same thing in there. You have to take care of this. And, you know, I was trying to tell her I'm doing the best I can with this. I don't really know how to deal with this situation. Everything's so bad. I don't know what to do except for what I am doing, and that wasn't good enough for her. And for 30 or 45 minutes, she followed me around my house with me telling her to leave over and over and over again. She would not leave my house. And eventually I was in the kitchen sorting my dishes, and she came in and was pointing her finger at me, yelling at me in there, telling me the same thing, that I had to deal with my responsibilities. At that point, I took her by the hand that she was pointing at me with and just turned her around facing the kitchen door. And I had hold of her elbows with my body pressed against her back and was just walking her towards the door. I was like, you need to leave now. And she grabbed onto the kitchen doorway and started pressing back against me. And when I finally backed off of her and she let go of the door, she turned around and grabbed my hand like this, and then she smacked me in the face and said I had no right to touch her. And as a reaction, my hand came back around too.
So you hit her?
Yeah, regrettably I did come back around. She went off towards what I thought was the front door, but as I was in the kitchen, I heard her dialing my phone. She told me then that she'd called the police.
Do you have a copy of the police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. Who is this gentleman, Mr. Heater?
This is my friend Jason Hubbard.
Was he a witness to what happened on the 28th of July?
No, he wasn't.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Titus, tell me what happened, your version of what happened when you got into the house.
When I came into the house, we sat down on the couch and started to talk. At first, things were okay. Then I started talking about the baby and about this new girl that he's dating, and how that her not liking me around is the real reason why he's not wanting to have anything to do with the baby. Then he got upset and told me to leave, and I told him no, he can't just end the conversation anytime he wants
Yes, he can.
to.
He can tell you to leave his house. Go ahead.
I followed him around the house and was still talking to him, and we ended up in the kitchen, and I had said something about this girl he's dating, his girlfriend, and he doesn't like me to refer to her as that, so that made him really upset. And he came and he grabbed me by my arms and started to escort me through the door. And I stopped myself, told him he didn't have any right to put his hands on me at all.
Yes, you did.
Not according to...
Oh, yes, you did. Once he tells you that he wants you to leave his house and you remain there, you're trespassing. That's a crime. Next.
Well, according to...
Don't tell me according to anybody. You tell according to a police officer. I've had 10 years of postgraduate legal education. When you're in somebody's house and you're an invited guest, first of all, you weren't an invited guest
But
in
I
this
was
house. I'm
invited.
speaking. You weren't an invited guest. You were told not to come. You came anyway. He tried to avoid you and said, please leave. Once he told you to leave his house and you refused, you become a trespasser.
Well, another reason
Now-
I didn't leave is because in previous arguments that we've had, he's asked me to leave, and then 10 minutes later he'll call me and tell me come back over.
Well, you just have to guess his mood then. Right now, he told you to leave, and you didn't leave, so he put his hand to escort you out. And what did you do?
I was pushing back against him, like you said, and I turned around, and he still had a hold of me when I smacked him in his face.
Right, so you smacked him in his face first.
Yes, ma'am.
And then he slapped you.
Twice.
Twice. You slapped him the first time, he slapped you twice. It's amazing to me that the police arrested you, sir. Absolutely amazing. Tried to get you out of the house. He's holding on to your arms. You're resisting him. Ultimately, you turn around. He's still pushing you, correct? And you slapped him. He slapped you then twice. Where did he slap you? In the face?
In the face.
And then he let go of you when you called the police. And you are there because you are pregnant.
Yes.
And you're concerned about the welfare of your baby.
Yes.
And that is the primary thing that you're concerned about, the welfare of your baby.
Yes.
So let me tell you what you told the police. Titus said that the defendant grabbed her by the arms and began to drag her out of his house, physically trying to remove her from the residence. She advised that she is pregnant with his child and that he pushed on her stomach. Was that meant to get the police really angry at him? Pregnant, he pushed on your stomach? You're full of baloney. And you had no right to have him arrested. And I'm amazed that they arrested him. He has a right to escort you out of his house if you refuse to leave. You hit him first. Did you hire a lawyer?
No, I had a public defender.
One of the things that I have to comment on is you're not too swift. If you're dating this girl and she tells you she's pregnant and it turns out it could have been you or somebody else, I wouldn't have had a wind through my head and then had intimate relations with her again, unprotected. Do we understand each other?
Completely.
Ms. Titus, you have to learn that domestic violence is a very serious crime. Just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you have a right to hit somebody and not expect to be hit back. And you have no right to lie to the police, because it was a lie what you told the police that he pushed you in your stomach while you were pregnant. That's not what he did at all, because that's not what you told me happened. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
22-year-old Lorena Villapudua is suing her boyfriend's ex, 24-year-old Magdalena Contreras, for vandalizing her car. Lorena claims Magdalena ripped off the license plate frame.
According to your complaint, the defendant, Ms. Contreras, is your boyfriend's ex-girlfriend.
Correct.
They also have a child together.
Right.
How old is that child?
He's 6.
Are you pregnant again?
Yes.
Whose baby is that?
My fiance.
You live together?
Yes.
You only have one child?
Little Rudy, and then this one that's coming on the way.
According to your complaint, you and your fiance were at an open school night at Rudy's school.
Right.
The defendant was there with her mother?
Yes.
There was some sort of an argument that took place, and after that, Ms. Contreras vandalized your car.
Yes, because she was upset with him.
Ms. Contreras says she didn't do as much as you said she did, just did a little. Is that your defense?
Yes.
Ms. Contreras, that's almost like being a little bit pregnant. It doesn't happen.
Lorena Villapudua says her boyfriend's ex, Magdalena Contreras, vandalized her car. Magdalena claims Lorena provoked her.
Now, I'm going to go to Ms. Contreras because Ms. Contreras doesn't seem to object and seems to acknowledge the fact that she did put her hands on your car. So I'm going to ask her to tell me why.
Because my ex, Rudy, was supposed to take our son.
Rudy?
Yes. He was supposed to take our son to open house, which he didn't, and...
Okay. So it was an open school night, and Rudy was with his father?
Yes.
For how long?
It's joint custody, so every other week he's with his dad.
So he had him for the week?
Yes.
Okay, so he didn't bring him to open school night?
Yeah, he didn't.
So?
So I got upset, and I started asking him, why didn't he bring our son? And he said our son would rather be with his grandpa. And I just got upset, and I started yelling at him.
In the school?
Yeah.
Yes. Why?
Because I was upset. I was hurt that he didn't take our son.
Control yourself. You were making a scene in the school?
Yes.
Well, that's stupid.
I know it's stupid.
Didn't your mother tell you to shut up?
Yeah, she did tell me to shut up, but I didn't
Good
listen to
for
her.
you.
No, she didn't.
Good for you.
She did not.
Shh. Am I the kind of person who needs help from you?
No.
So you created a scene in your son's school, which of course left everybody, including the teachers, the administration, the other parents, with the idea that this child comes from a home where they're not going to let their kids go and visit, certainly, because his mother doesn't know how to control herself.
Well, I was very hurt that he didn't take our son. Our son was
Get over it.
all happy that he was going to go.
Get over it. Did the court grant you joint custody?
Yes.
If the court granted you joint custody, then the court clearly had to say, I think that both of these parents are responsible enough to take care of this child an equal amount of time, that they're two good parents, and they made a judgment that he was as good a parent as you were, so that if he's with his father and his father decides not to bring him to open school night, that's none of your business. So let's move on from there. So you got angry, making a scene in the school in front of other people. Then what did you do?
We went into the classroom, the teacher started talking to us,
and she was showing us.
Were you behaving at this point?
Yeah.
Good.
I just went to his desk and got his little picture, and then me and my mom took off, and then I seen Lorena's car, and I recognized it, and I just broke off her license plate holder. That's all I did to it. I didn't scratch it or anything else.
Well, tell me exactly the steps that you took. You saw her car while you were driving in your car?
No, I
Or
was
were you
walking to my car.
Okay. You were walking to your car, you saw her car. So you had to bend down. Did you take off the back license plate or the front?
The back, just the holder.
And what did you do with it?
I broke it off, and then I was going to leave it on her window, but I didn't, so I just took off with it.
Can I see photographs of the damage to the car, please?
Yes, you may. I also have a police report.
I'd like to see that, too.
And it has a witness, a 13-year-old girl that was standing out near the car.
Well, when you pulled it off, madam, you scratched the paint.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did!
No, I didn't. I didn't
Listen
scratch
to
her
me.
car.
Listen to me. Yes, you did.
No.
Yes, you did. That's why I'm here and you're there.
I didn't scratch her car.
That's why I'm here and you're there.
Your Honor, I seen it.
Just a second. Say nothing. You still have to share custody of this child, I assume.
Yes.
So, she can get mad at me, I don't care. As a matter of fact, I rather like it. You were driving the white truck?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said to your daughter, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Exactly. What did you say to this idiot when she got back into the car?
I told her that, why did you do that? It was uncalled for.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You have an estimate?
I do.
I didn't scratch her car when I broke that off. There's no way that I scratched her car.
Your Honor, may I say something?
Go ahead.
The license plate frame is screwed on.
I know what she did. She
can't-
pulled it off. She went like this in order to get it off, and in doing so, she scratched the car with the license plate. That's what she did. And she keeps saying, I just took off the frame. When you went over to take off the frame, genius, did you have with you a pliers?
No.
You had your hands?
Yes.
So you had to pull it. It was screwed on. When you pulled it, in order to get it off, and you were jiggling it, you scratched around the car. Do you get it?
I didn't scratch your car.
Oh, what an idiot. What an idiot. Listen, do me a favor. You know, she's pregnant now. When she's finished, discuss birth control with her. It's really a shame that we're continuing this. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $618. That's all.
Elizabeth Whitaker claims former friend Danielle Kahneman stole $800 from her duffel bag. Danielle says Elizabeth spent the $800 on drugs.
Miss Whitaker, the defendant was your best friend, and it is your claim that she stole $800 out of a duffel bag. In that duffel bag was also some sort of hair straightening device. So you're suing her for the value of that. First of all, why was there cash in a duffel bag?
Because we were out all day long, so I left the cash in the duffel bag so that I didn't lose it, because $800 is a lot to have carrying around.
What was $800 doing in your duffel bag?
I had used it to get my car fixed. My boyfriend had lent it to me so I could fix my car.
When did your boyfriend give you $800 to fix your car?
He's over in Iraq right now, so he had sent me his ATM card with his PIN number, so he had let me withdraw the money from the ATM.
Why didn't you leave the money home?
Because I hadn't been home in the time that I had withdrew the money.
Oh, you said, I withdrew the money on approximately 5 separate occasions.
Yes, ma'am.
So what I'm asking you is, why didn't you leave the money home? The answer is not that you weren't home. You were home in between those 5 different days that you deposited the money.
No, ma'am, I was not. I was with Danielle the entire time. I had not been home once.
Over how many days did you withdraw the money?
2, the 13th and the 14th of March.
So you were keeping it in the duffel bag to fix your car?
Yes, ma'am. The duffel bag was at Danielle's house the entire time.
Why are you looking so ridiculously funny?
I'm not. I just think it's funny because it's not. None of it's true. I'm just. I just know that none of it's true, so I'm just listening to what she's saying.
Who else lives in Danielle's house?
At the time, only her sister's boyfriend.
What's your sister's boyfriend's name?
Zach.
Why was he staying with you?
It's my sister and her boyfriend's house. She moved in when they started dating. Now they're engaged, so.
So you were staying with them?
Yes, I was living with my sister in Spring Hill.
They weren't living with her. She moved in with her sister and her sister's boyfriend.
Correct.
On what date did you find the duffel bag missing?
The 15th, we'd had a fight. My duffel bag was still at her house. She had spent the night at my house the previous night. We had a fight, so I made her leave, and like 20 minutes after I realized, so I called her and she told me that I wasn't getting it back.
Okay, you made her leave. What did you say to her?
We just got into a fight. We were screaming at each other, and she just left, and I told her just get out.
What did you say when you called her 20 minutes later?
I just told her that because I had clothes and my hair straightened and everything, I just told her that I needed it all back, and she told me
No, just a second. Did you say anything about cash?
No, ma'am.
You just said my duffel bag is there and I have stuff in it?
Yes.
What did you say? Tell me what
just
you
that
said.
my duffel bag was still there and I needed it back.
And what did she say?
She told me that I wasn't going to get it back.
Why did you say that to her?
I did not say that to her.
Yes, you
at
did.
all.
There's no
I
question
didn't.
in my mind you said that to
No,
her.
ma'am,
Can I
there's
say
no question
something?
in my
Not
mind
yet.
that I didn't say it. There was no phone calls. There was about 6 text messages first on the phone, and then it was followed by her calling me and threatening me.
Okay, well,
so
what did the text?
I didn't call her at all.
I didn't say you called her.
Okay.
I didn't say you called her.
No, I know.
You're not paying attention.
I just said
You're
she
not
called
paying
me. I was just letting you know she was the one that called me.
That's what she said.
Okay. I was just confirming the fact that she was right, that she did call me. Oh, my God.
Something wrong with your affect. Pay attention.
No.
Put on your listening ears. What did you say when she called you and told you about the duffel bag?
She didn't say anything about the duffel bag.
What did she call you for?
She told, when we were previously at her house, she mentioned something.
No. When you had a fight and
Okay.
you left.
Yeah.
Listen to me very
Uh-huh.
carefully. When you had a fight and you left, she called you. That you just told me happened. What did she say when she called you?
She come back to the house that she was going to stab me. It had nothing to do about the duffel bag.
She said, come back to the house because I'm going to stab you?
Yeah. And I called, and then after her phone call, I called up her mother and let her know that she called me and said that. This is my best friend since I was about 5 years old. I went to his house. I was crying, upset. It's about 25 minutes back to my sister's house. I didn't want to drive back there upset. I knew, you just don't want to drive when you're upset. So I stopped at his house, and that was about the time she did like 6 text messages. And about 5 minutes after I got to his house, he was actually sitting there when she made that phone call. And then I called her mother, and I actually called the police. And I told them that I didn't have time to do a full report because I had to get back up to my sister's house to have her car back so she could get to work. But I told them that I was scared and that I just wanted to call in and at least let them know and give them the names. And they said, okay.
Where's her duffel bag?
Her duffel bag was still at my house. But it takes about 25 minutes there and back. So I didn't want to go all the way back up there and then come back. Told her
I
she
just
could come.
asked you a question. Where
Yeah.
was the duffel bag?
It was still at my house.
And what happened when you got to your house?
Got to my house. My sister used her car, and I stayed there.
What did you do with the duffel bag?
It stayed there. I didn't touch the duffel bag.
How did your sister get hold of her hair straightener?
Because I lived there. About 2 days later, I moved out, and I left it there by accident. And my sister
Just a
hadn't
second.
brought it back yet.
Okay.
But I don't.
How did your sister get her hair straightener? Because I read your answer.
Because
what?
I lived with her.
Well, what was she doing going into the duffel bag? Was she a thief?
Her and she let me use the straightener before we left to go to
The
her.
duffel bag was, the hair straightener was in the duffel bag.
No, it wasn't. It was in my bathroom plugged in because right before we left to go hang out with a few of our friends, go back towards her house, we did our hair, so it was left in my bathroom plugged in.
Is
And we
that
turned it
correct?
off.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So now where's the duffel bag?
On my rack in my bedroom because I didn't have a closet. I had a rack with my clothes on it, so it was on the bottom rack.
So who stole her money?
There was no money in it.
Oh, yeah, she's going to show me proof that she took money out.
Oh, I bet she did take money out, but there was no cash in the duffel bag.
How do you know that?
One, because...
How do you know that? Madam, I asked you a simple question. You're giving me all kinds of mumbo-jumbo. How did you know there was no cash in the duffel bag?
Because my friend Sam called me up and said that Beth was calling her up to ask her for cocaine. I was worried about it, and that's when I called her boyfriend. But she was my best friend. If there was cash in her duffel bag, don't you think she would have said something to me when she asked me to bring back the duffel bag?
Not if you had just had a fight.
Okay, well, 3 weeks after, when she actually came and picked it up, she never said one word to my mom or anything about the cash either. I have not heard one thing about cash.
Well,
ever.
when was the first time did you hear about cash?
When I got served when I found out about this.
When was the first time, Miss Whitaker, that you advised anybody that there was cash in that duffel bag?
I had told my mother, and the night that she had called my mother had questioned her about the money in the bag.
Could you stand up, please? Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
You spoke to the defendant?
Yes.
When?
The night they had the fight.
Tell me about the conversation.
She called me, actually, to get a number out of Beth's phone that she wanted.
What did she say to you? Tell me what she said.
That's exactly what she said. Can you get a number out of the phone for me?
Whose number was it?
I don't know. I didn't ask her.
Go ahead.
And I said to her, Danielle, what happened to the money? And she launches into this big thing that she didn't even know Beth had any money, and if Beth never told her there was any money. And I said, Danielle, she's been with you for the last 3 or 4 days. You're the only one she's been with. I didn't take her to the bank, so you must have.
What did she say?
She said, well, the only thing I can think of is that I stopped at the grocery store and Beth wanted to wait in the car, and that's when she must have done it. And I said, Danielle, that doesn't make any kind of sense. And she says, well, you know, Beth hasn't been making any sense lately. She's been acting really crazy, and that's what people on drugs do. And she goes on to tell me that we can get her help and that we can get her into rehab. And I said, Danielle, what happened to the money? And Danielle said to me, well, the drug dealer must have it. And I said, well, you must have taken her to the drug dealer because I know I didn't. And then she said, well, I don't know how she got to the drug dealer. And then she says to me that she contacted Beth's boyfriend, Richard. She said that she and Richard had been friends for a long time and she wasn't going to let this come between her, you know, affect her and Richard's friendship. And she said that she called Richard and set up a 3-way conversation, and Beth didn't know that Richard was on the other line. And she said that she confronted Beth about spending the money on drugs, and she said that she just couldn't believe that Beth had spent $800 of Richard's money on drugs. And I said to her, Danielle, how did you know it was $800? And she said, because Richard told me. And I said, Danielle, Richard's in Iraq. He doesn't have a cell phone. You couldn't have called him. Then she said that her mother was trying to call her and she would call me back, and needless to say, I never heard from her again.
You still have the boyfriend in Iraq?
Yes, ma'am.
You have something you want to say to me?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, when she had called, I was there for the conversation, when they had the argument, she came to my house crying, that she was like, I could hear her over the line, she was screaming very loudly at her, like, you know, threatening her. It's like, you need to come back to the house so I can kick you. You know, I'm going to stab you, You know, she came to my house in a wreck. I mean, I couldn't believe, like, what she could probably have said to her to, like, you know,
I can't believe it either. Now you can sit down. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Did you have that conversation with Mrs. Whitaker?
Some of it, yes.
Sure.
I don't know what I didn't
answer.
say to her, but I know what I did say to her. She didn't ask me about an actual amount of money. What she asked was, she told me she found some ATM.
So you knew about them, just a second. So you knew about the money, the missing money, listen to me. So you knew about the missing money the same day as it was missing.
I knew that she said she found withdrawal receipts. So I didn't know anything about the duffel bag, cash being in the duffel bag. She just told me she found withdrawal receipts and said that Beth spent some money. I had no idea there would be money at my house. There couldn't have been money at my house because there was no conversation about that until obviously now.
No,
Her mom
there
told
was
me
a
that
conversation about it with her mother the same day that it happened. And usually, yes, it had to do with that money.
Not with my house, though. She called me up and said that she found withdrawal receipts and she wanted to know if I knew anything about it. I told her no, that I never brought her to the bank, and that's all that I knew.
And you didn't discuss with her a 3-way conversation?
No, I don't have her boyfriend's cell phone number.
All I'm asking you is, you didn't discuss a 3-way conversation with her?
No.
No, I don't believe you.
Okay.
How's that?
Elizabeth Whitaker claims former friend Danielle Kahneman stole $800 from her duffel bag. Danielle says Elizabeth spent the $800 on drugs.
Okay. I'm very, very reluctant on circumstantial type evidence when other people have access to property to make a judgment that somebody took property. I'm reluctant to do that because to label somebody a thief, as far as I'm concerned, is a very serious thing. There is no question in my mind that you either took it or know who took the money out of her duffel bag. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $800. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người, chào mừng mọi người đã quay trở lại channel của mình. Hôm nay mình sẽ hướng dẫn mọi người cách làm một chiếc giỏ xách có dán hình cái thuyền nhé. Ở đây mình sẽ sử dụng tờ giấy màu tím và trắng. Tiếp theo dụng cụ gồm có kéo, bút chì, thước, bút màu, hố keo, Giờ chúng ta sẽ bắt tay vào làm nhé. Đầu tiên thì mình sẽ cày kích thước của chữ giỏ sách. Mình sẽ cày với kích thước là 8 x 8. Sau đó thì mình sẽ cắt sợi dài để làm phần quai sách. Tiếp theo đó thì mình sẽ vẽ hình cái thuyền lên đây nhé. như vậy là chiếc giỏ sách của mình đã hoàn thành xong. Nếu như mọi người cảm thấy video này hay và có ích, hãy để lại cho mình một like, share và đăng ký kênh nhé. Hẹn gặp lại mọi người ở những video tiếp theo.